Today we are going to run first of our 3 marathon series for VARC out of the 9 marathon series across all the 3 sections for CAT. We are around 2 months away. So it's right time, you should gear up yourself and just start practicing. And you should practice as if nobody has practiced ever. This is not the time to restart anything. It is the time to revise everything and engage your brain more and more, especially in RCs and your DILR sets. But because we are going to restrict ourselves to the VARC portion for today, let's now focus on that. So how I have devised this entire presentation is that we would be solving a lot of RCs. That is going to be a significant portion of it. And then on the basis of time and the burnout that we are going to judge in the middle, we'll see how many VA questions we can do. Then the similar kind of thing we are going to do in Marathon 2 with additional questions and some of these specific VA question types that we would not be touching up in this one. I would be giving you some maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes of break also in between as and when you need it. So I'm going to check that as well. If you have any question, anything for that matter, just keep on posting it on YouTube. I'm not sure if I can see that on the go, but I'll try to check that as much as possible. I'll ask my team to help me with that. Perfect. So let's begin. Let us start with this wonderful thing called RC. And before I even thought of this live session, I got a very interesting question from a lot of students that, okay, we have done so many RCs now. We have also studied how to solve RC, whatever this 5-pause approach is that we have. But can you just take us through it for a moment before we start doing the RCs? So let me spend 5 minutes in telling you how we are going to solve the RCs. Be with me, very interesting thing. And that thing is known as the 5-pause approach. This 5-pause approach is one thing that you should just, memorize. It should be so deeply etched in your mind as if you have gotten the love of your life. So chaliye, shuru karte hain. Let's begin. 5-pause approach simply means that while you are doing your RC, you have to stop at 5 places. And why would you stop? To do something. What exactly you are going to do when you are going to stop at these 5 places, that is called the 5-pause approach. The very first pause is when you read the paragraph of your given passage. You read the paragraph and then you stop. And what should you do then? You will summarize it in your mind. We call that thing as argument. Argument basically means what is the main point author is trying to discuss there. It is always a good idea to also make a topic of that particular paragraph, but only for the first paragraph, because in most of the cases, first paragraph will give you the topic of the entire passage. If there is a change, we can always update it. This is the first pause. Be with me. Stop after reading the paragraph and make a summary/argument of it. Pause number 2. What should you do then? Once you are done with all these paragraphs one by one, then you will stop after the end of the passage. What to do? You will now make the overall summary, or it is known as overall argument, or the main idea of the entire passage, whatever you want to call it. But what the passage is about, why author has written this passage, that summary, again, in your mind, or it is a good idea to write it down in pen. All your summaries you can do in your mind, the para summaries, but the passage summary you should write. If you don't want to write the entire thing, thinking maybe, it's going to take a lot of time, just write some of the keywords. Now, this was not very interesting. The interesting thing comes here, which most of us do wrong. Third pause. Third pause happens at the end of the question. Now you read the question and stop. What do I mean by question? Question means question, not the options. You read the question, but not the options, then you stop. And what would you want to do there? You will make an answer on your own without reading the options. We call that thing as shadow answer. Shadow answer simply means the answer that you are going to make on the basis of your understanding of the passage. It can be in your own language. Let's say you are more comfortable in Hindi. You can make your shadow answer in Hindi. If you're comfortable in Telugu, you can make it in Telugu. It is a good idea to make it in English actually, but it's more about understanding the question and finding the answer of it. Sometimes you can't make the correct answer. Let's say there is a question called, which of the following things are true about para 2? Then you can't make an answer. Now in that case, what will you do? You will make a function answer. Function answer is also called a shadow answer. Basically some logic. Ki, haan, it's gonna happen in para 2. I can find that in para 2. Okay, these were the things that were discussed about a race of intelligent fish. And that was given in para 2 and para 3, so I have to just check that out. Either way, you have to make a shadow answer. You have to think where you can get this answer. There is only one type of question for which you can never make a shadow answer, and that question is called, which of the following can be inferred from the passage, or which of the following cannot be inferred from the passage. But you know, you can actually make a shadow answer for that as well. Your overall summary is the shadow answer. Okay? But make a shadow answer. Make some logic. How am I going to reach the answer of this question? And once you make it, then you go for the fourth pause. Then you will start reading the option, and this is where I want your undivided attention. When you are going to pause after each option, it means that you will read an option, you will decide whether you want to keep that option or not, then and only then you will go to the next option. So we are either shortlisting the option or eliminating the option. We are not selecting it. While doing the RCs today, to help with the time, sometimes I'll just take you to the right option, but we will talk about the shadow answer in that case as well. But the right way to do any RC is that you read an option, take a call on that option, then and only then you will go to the next option, otherwise not. If you read all 4 options in one go, you have lost it. And then I don't guarantee for that RC. And finally, the fifth pause. In more cases than ever, you probably will be stuck between 2 options. Now you have to finalize the choice. This is called your fifth pause. Now finalizing the choice. How will you finalize the choice? Step 1 is again looking at your shadow answer and seeing which particular option corresponds to the shadow answer more comprehensively. If you can't still make your mind thoroughly, you might have to go back to that portion of the passage as well. If you still can't do that, and this is interesting, leave the question and move on. It is not an ego battle. You just want 3 marks, and 3 marks can come from an easier RC also. Just because you have spent maybe a minute or so on a particular question, if you are not able to crack it, just go, move on. This is called the 5 pause approach to solving the RC. Let's now start that. Don't worry about my gaze, okay? I have a lot of monitors here in which I have to keep on juggling through things. So let's start with this passage. It appeared in CAT 2019, slot number 1. How we are going to do this? Here is your paragraph, first paragraph. I am giving you somewhere around 100 seconds. Read it and make a topic and the summary of this thing in your mind, what this passage is about. Your time starts now. Keep on putting that in the chat section, comment section. Ten seconds to go. Time up. Let's read it. Contemporary internet shopping conjures a perfect storm of choice anxiety. Choice anxiety. Oh, I have to choose, but I don't know what to choose, how to choose. Maybe this is called choice anxiety. Seems like passage is about choice anxiety. That is called active reading. Evaluating every single sentence and thinking about what the passage might be about, what the next set of sentences might be about. Let's read it further. Contemporary internet shopping. So I'm talking about choice anxiety online. Research has consistently held that people who are presented with a few options, make better, easier decisions than those presented with many. Of course, this is all about choice anxiety. If I ask you to pick between, let's say, 2 things to eat, it is easier for you to pick one. But if I give you 10 of them, maybe it is difficult. Helping consumers figure out what to buy amid an endless sea of choice online has become a cottage industry unto oneself. Many brands and retailers now wield marketing buzzwords such as curation, differentiation, etc. to sell an assortment of stuff targeted to a particular customer. Companies find such shoppers through the data goldmine of digital advertising, which can catalog people by gender. So what author is saying, people have choice anxiety and organizations are taking advantage of it by curating the data that they have. So they might be offering some sort of things to, maybe an Ayushi or some different sort of things to an Ayush and things like that on the basis of your preferences. An author then says that Americans have lost their ability to sort through the sheer volume of consumer choices available to them. A ghost now has to be in the retail machine, whether it is an algorithm, an influencer, or some snazzy ad tech to help a product follow you around the internet. Indeed, choice fatigue. There is a fatigue also. You are tired because of it. Choice fatigue is one reason so many people gravitate towards lifestyle influencers on Instagram. Very simple to do now. I am talking about choice anxiety in online shopping. An author then says that because people are finding it difficult to make choices while shopping on the internet, there is an industry which is built around helping people figure out what to buy. And what that industry is all about. It can be influencers, it can be some form of algorithm, so maybe the companies that are finding you good recommendations, things like that. Very interesting passage. The things that you should have in your mind are maybe how you should deal with choice anxiety, or what is the impact of these companies on people, or maybe are these companies good enough to provide the relief from choice anxiety? Are there challenges associated with such organizations or such activities which are helping people find out the right product for them? I don't know. Maybe author should talk about some of these. And that's where we come to para 2. 60 seconds on the clock, make an argument. You don't need a title now. Twenty seconds. Time up. What is the passage about? This gives you the solution to deal with choice anxiety, that companies are sprouting up which are providing you a relief from that. How are they doing it? Trying to provide you some form of customization. A new class of startups tries to offer consumers freedom from making choices by offering products that inspire confidence. And how are they inspiring confidence? You want a bag. And you want a very specific type of bag. And there is a company that says that, okay, this is the bag that you can get. That's all. This bag, can have all your stuff in one thing, plus your laptop, plus your makeup, plus everything. And you can use it just as a cabin bag. You don't even have to check in things. The things that you can put in that bag with the help of, let's say, a vacuum are so many. Oh, voila. This is the kind of bag I want. I don't want to stand in the check-in line. Your job is done. You pick that up. No choice anxiety, sorted. But these organizations are offering you what? Maybe 1 product, 2 products, 3 products, we don't know. Few products although. Let's take a look at the next one. 50 seconds on the clock. Make an argument. Ten seconds to go. Time up. Wow, $300 suitcase. This can definitely solve the problem for some of the people, but not for all. So here author is talking about the problem with this solution. What was the solution of choice anxiety? New companies offering you fewer options, customized options at a higher price range. And that is the problem. This can solve the choice anxiety problem for some of the people who can afford it, but it might not be able to do that for the rest of the masses. So companies are still targeting products towards well-to-do consumers who already have plenty, but choices are shrunk for people with lower incomes. Absolutely. That is the problem. All right, let's go further. Para 4. 50 seconds on the clock. What's the argument? Ten seconds to go. Time up. Now, author is talking about the financial viability of these startups. Now, the startups are offering simplicity, 1 product, 2 products, 3 products, things like that. But then they also have to mint money. They have to sustain themselves in the market. Let's say they are offering you a $300 bag. But if the buyers of $300 bag are, let's say, 1,000 only, but for a company to even break even the marketing cost, maybe it has to sell 500 of such bags, the company will not sustain. And what is this leading to? The very companies that are providing you simplicity are now offering you variety. Now, wait for a moment. Active reading is all about what all these things can impact your understanding. There was a problem called choice anxiety. The solution of it was the startups that were offering you less variety. But to sustain themselves, the startups are now offering you more variety. That means choice anxiety is once again happening. So this is the problem. This is now not resolving choice anxiety because they are offering more variety now. That's exactly what author is talking about. Even startups that promise simplicity by offering a limited range of products are likely to expand and end up offering overwhelming variety. Overwhelming. All right, let's take a quick recap. So that was our first pause. We stopped after every single paragraph. We made the summary of each paragraph. What is the main idea? This is our second pause. An industry has emerged to help consumers deal with the overwhelming array of product choices online. But choices have shrunk for consumers from low income group, and there are some problems associated with the financial viability of such companies that are offering you fewer variety. Simple. Let's now do the questions. Pause number 3, you read the question. Here is your question. Please do not read the options. Let me give you 20 seconds, read this question and think about what may be the answer or from where you can get that answer. Go ahead. Time up. Take a look at this. In para 4, it was talked about this thing, Casper and Glossier. Why the examples of Casper and Glossier are given? Author wants to tell you that these companies like Casper, Glossier, They started with very simple set of products, but then Glossier expanded itself into a range of products. Why author has given the example of Glossier? To tell you that the companies that wanted to give you a solution are now offering you the same problem whose solution they were. Yes or no? This is called shadow answer, making the answer in your own language. Why author has given this example? Author has given this example to tell you that they will become what they intended to oppose, what they intended to solve. Chali. Now we have to just pick up our answer. Now this is very simple. First, they are increasing the purchasing power of poor Americans. Absolutely not. This is not the reason of why author has given this example. Not my answer. Second, they might transform into what they were exceptions to. Yeah, seems likely. I can keep it. I should definitely shortlist it. They were the exception to the idea of variety. But now they are getting into variety. So they are becoming what they are exceptions to. I can keep it. Are you realizing what we are doing? We are reading every option one by one and making a choice on that. I'm not reading all 4 options in one go. And that is our 4th pause. Actually, 4th and 5th pause will go together. There won't be any 5th pause if you are not confused between 2 options. Let's take a look at 3rd one. They are exceptions to the dominant trend in consumer markets. No. Let's say there is a dominant trend that now people want to wear red color pants. And they are saying that, okay, we are going to offer you the pants in any other color but red. It's not about that. It is not an exception to the dominant trend. This is not a trend. Choice, anxiety. This is the problem. So sometimes we can think of 3rd also, that maybe this can be the answer, but it might not be. But those of you who want to shortlist it, great, you can. 4th, they are facilitating a uniform distribution of commodities in the market. Absolutely not. Hey, we want to give bags to everybody. No, absolutely not. What is closest to my shadow answer? That Glossier that started off with some solution is now becoming the same problem that it was a solution of. Answer is 2. And sorted. Now imagine that you are doing this thing in the examination scenario where I am not discussing this thing with you. I'm at least taking 1 minute or so in each paragraph. Many times people think, okay, if I have to summarize something, it's going to take a lot of time. No, it doesn't, my dear. Anything between 6 minutes and 10 minutes, depending upon the complexity of an RC, you can easily do that. Let's go further. Next question. Now this time I'm going to give you around 100 seconds. You make the shadow answer, pick up your final option, give it to me in the comment section, and then we are going to discuss it. Start. Twenty seconds. Time up. Which of the following hypothetical statements, that means none of these things will be present in the passage. You have to think. Application question. Would add least depth to the author's prediction of the fate of startups. Would add least depth. Least depth means opposite to what is mentioned. What is author saying about the fate of these startups that are offering you few product options? Author says, to ensure their sustenance, they will have to now offer more variety. What would offer least depth to this argument? Any option that goes against this argument. So any option that says that no, to sustain themselves, these startups do not have to launch a wide variety of things, will give the least depth to the argument. Shadow answer is done. Pick up an option which is similar to that. Let's take a look at this. With the motive of promoting certain rival companies, the government decides to double the tax rates for these startups. If government is doubling the tax rate for these startups, then it will lead to the collapse of this startup. So they may have to offer variety to manage this doubling of taxes. This is not adding any depth, right? Opposite. Second, startups with few product options are no exception to consumer market that is deeply divided along class lines. So what? If the consumer market is divided along class lines, let us say in America, poor people are buying this thing, middle class people are buying this thing, rich people are buying this thing, blacks are buying this thing, browns are buying this thing, whites are buying that thing, whatever. And these startups are no exception to this class divided American market. How is it helping these startups sustain themselves? That is not even mentioned. It is only the segregation which is mentioned. Okay, that the market is divided in so many groups. So what? Does it mean that this division is going to help these startups sustain without improving their variety, without increasing their variety? Nothing about that is given. So it doesn't add any depth. It basically does nothing. Useless option. Third, with Casper and Glossier venturing into new product ranges, their regular customers start losing trust in the companies and their products. Great. A quicker way of sending these companies away from the market, right? So this is also saying that the companies will go out of business. Gone. Fourth, an exceptional surge in their sales enables startups to meet their desired profit goals without expanding their product catalog. Bang on. Author says that to meet their viability, their sustenance, they will have to create a lot of variety. Option says that they don't have to create the variety. People are just buying their products like crazy. Great. This adds least depth to the author's argument. Basically, this is the opposite to author's argument, which means now these organizations can sustain themselves without offering more variety. They can remain in their true initial character. Fourth is going to be my answer. Very interesting question. Go ahead. You have 90 seconds. And meanwhile, I'll check if you have mentioned something. Okay, let's do it. A new food brand plans to launch a series of products in American market. Which of the following product plans is most likely to be supported by author of the passage? Another application based question. What do I mean by that? Author wants that you should offer things not only for the rich class but also for the lower class. And author also is talking about that there should be limited overall range. That means it should not be overwhelming in terms of variety. Hai na? Plus, it should cater to not just few consumers. All right, perfect. So, any option that can give me this kind of an idea where you are not increasing the price too much and you are also keeping the range also limited should be the answer. That kind of thing is happening in option number 1. A range of 10 products priced between $5 and $10. $5 and $10. So, you have to pick up the price point which is minimum. Among the 4 options, $5 and $10 is the minimum range. And you have to pick up the range of products also which is not maximum, because otherwise it is going to bring choice anxiety. So from I think between 10 and 25, 10 is the best one. A is the answer. Let's go to the next one. And before that, let me answer a very interesting thing. Somebody has said that Somebody said that it may be a recorded session. No, it's not a recorded session. You know, I can dance in front of you, but I think it is a good idea. Let's solve the question now. "60 seconds for this one." "20 seconds to go." Time up. All of the following, if true, would weaken the author's claim except. Let's simplify the question stem. All of the following, if true, would weaken except. That means which of the following would strengthen the author's argument. Okay. Any option which gives value to author's argument should be my answer. Author's argument is that these startups will have to expand their range if they want to be viable. Okay, let's see any option that talks about something like this. First one, yeah, the annual sale of companies that hired lifestyle influencers on Instagram for marketing their products were 40% less than those that did not. Okay, the annual sale of companies that hired lifestyle influencers for their products were 40% less. So annual sale was less. That means influencers are not doing anything. So this is not talking about, you know, my shadow answer where I really need to find out something that if you have fewer products, then your sales are still great. Second, product options increased market competition, bringing down the prices of commodities, which in turn increased purchasing power of the poor. Idea is not about increasing the purchasing power of poor. It is about resolving the choice anxiety of people while ensuring that the organizations that are doing it remain viable. Third says the annual sale growth of companies with fewer product options were higher than that of companies which curated their products for their target audience. So if startups with smaller range do not have to expand their range to meet the profitability, this is exactly what is supporting my answer. That annual sales growth of the companies with fewer options were higher than others. Great, third can be my answer. Fourth says the empowerment felt by purchasers in buying a commodity were directly proportional to the number of options they would choose from. You can definitely feel empowered and confident if you don't have choice anxiety. But how is empowerment of your consumers related to your viability? So fourth is also not doing anything to my shadow answer. My answer should be 3. Now if you realize that this question was similar to a question that we just did, but the words were different. In the year this was asked, there were 5 questions, although, you know, I've kept this as accompanied by a set of 4 questions, so that is just a typo. All right. Let's get ready for our next passage. Now you have 40 seconds. Give a quick read to it, find out the topic and the argument that it is trying to give you. Okay. Free of the taint of manufacture. That phrase in particular is heavily loaded with the ideology of what the Victorian socialist William Morris called the anti-scrape, or an anti-capitalist conservatism, not conservationism, not conservatism, that solaced itself with the vision of a pre-industrial golden age. The language is quite complex. If this kind of passage appears in your exam, this should probably not be the one to start with. Let's take a look at this. Very interesting one. In Britain, folk may often appear a cozy, fossilized form, but when you look more closely, the idea of folk, who has the right to sing it, dance it, invoke it, collect it, etc., has always been a contested territory. So, am I talking about the idea of folk? Yes. What is folk? Now, here, folk can be folk dance, folk music, art, and we'll see. But author is saying that idea of folk has always been debatable. Take a look at this one. It has always been a contested territory, come what may. So the overall idea is that we are trying to evaluate what is folk. And right now we know that it is a contested territory. Everything else is just a frill here and there. Okay. Go ahead, take a look at this one. You have 1 minute. Meanwhile, you do this. My team wants to just quickly check the camera for a moment. All right, so we are back. Sorry for this little glitch. I'll tell you why. Anyway, so yeah, the screen is now there. So here author says that in our own time, though the word folk has achieved the rare distinction of occupying fashionable and unfashionable status simultaneously, just as the effusive floral prints of radical William Morris is now covering genteel sofas, so the revolutionary intentions of many folk historians and revivalists have led to a music that is commonly regarded as parochial and conservative. Let's understand the meaning of it. Author says, folk is something which has a rare distinction of occupying a status of being a fashionable thing and an unfashionable thing alike. Maybe that I consider folk fashionable, you consider folk unfashionable, folk dance, let's say. And we are living in the same time. This is what author is trying to say. And then author gives an example, and there is a question also later on that. Author says that, think about this thing. The effusive floral prints of radical William Morris now cover genteel sofas. There was something which was amazing, floral prints, but now they are part of your really good sofas. Maybe if you did not understand it till now, then author tells you how you can understand it. Author says, so the revolutionary intentions of many folk historians and revivalists, so many people have worked towards music, has led to a music that is commonly regarded as parochial and conservative. In the similar manner, something which was considered remarkable earlier is now being considered conservative, not very useful, not very attractive. So this author is, author is trying to say that folk has gotten a status of maybe not so good thing. And then author says, and yet, always take care of these keywords, and yet, folk is hip again. Can I say that this entire explanation is telling you why folk is popular and unpopular, fashionable and unfashionable simultaneously, yet it is hip again. Once again, it is wonderful, influencing artists, clothing, furniture designers, and so forth. Folk is a sonic, shabby chic, containing elements of an uncanny and airy, as well as an antique veneer. Again, author is saying that folk is something which contains rubbish and something wonderful. And I'm talking about folk music here, by the way. So author says that in our time, folk is simultaneously fashionable and unfashionable, though it is rooted in history, comes from a long line of discussion in the past. It still is influencing music and design in varied ways. The very obscurity and anonymity of folk music origins opens up the space for rampant imaginative fancies. If whatever you are doing to folk, its anonymity, its obscurity, its hiddenness, so to say, what is it leading to? It is giving you an opportunity to create a different aspect of folk music. It is helping you create imaginative fancies. That means it is helping you design the folk in different ways. Now, what sort of design it might be? Is it going to be good for people or not? We don't know so far. Maybe author should talk about it. Do para 3. Let me give you 40 seconds for that. Think about it and then we are going to crack it together. Go ahead. I would sincerely request that there is a person who is spamming the chat and people are complaining about that person. Please don't do that, my dear. Let's maintain the sanctity of session. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Cecil Sharp, who wrote about this subject, believed that folk songs existed in constant transformation. This means folk songs were not etched in stone. 2000 years ago, when I took my, earlier birth, I created a folk song, Dum Dum Dara Dada Dadum. It is not Dum Dum Dara Dada Dadum right now. That is what Cecil is saying, not me. Cecil Sharp says that they have existed in constant transformation. Whenever you come across passages which are abstract, create some form of analogy, some form of example, something amusing for yourself. Let me put that in this form, this example. It will make your understanding very easy. Then author says, it is a living example of an art form in a perpetual state of renewal. Yeah, one man sings a song, then others sing it after him, changing what they do not like. Gives you the same thing, that it is in constant transformation. He compared each rendition of a ballad to an acorn falling from an oak tree. Every subsequent iteration sows the song anew. Just explain the same thing, that the moment you sing a song that has already been created, you would add value to that song according to your own values and it will be a new song. And that's all. That's basically the thing that author is talking about here. Author says that folk songs are constantly in the state of renewal. And then the example is given that 20th century revivalists drew inspiration from multiple sources, Oriental mysticism and whatnot. When a passage has a lot of details but is talking about just one single idea that the author mentioned earlier, it's a great thing for you. That's what you have to start judging. Let's go further. 40 seconds. Para 4. If you need a couple of more seconds for something, just write it in comment section, okay? Consequently, if you want me to speed up the things, do let me know about that as well. But I think, the pace is fine. Otherwise, quite a number of us might feel missed out. Time up. Let's do it. For the second wave of folk revivalists, so folk is in a constant state of revival. The vital spark was communism's dream of a post-revolutionary New Jerusalem. For their younger successors in 60s who thronged the folk clubs set up by Old Guard, the lyrical freedom of Dylan and the unchained melodies of psychedelia created the conditions for folk. So here author is saying that what the second folk wave was influenced by. Simple. And there are so many factors. If a question comes that asks you, what is the thing that second wave of folk is not influenced by? Now you can't remember all these things, but you can at least remember na, that this discussion happened in para 4. That's all you have to keep in your mind. That's going to be your shadow answer. Anyway, let's complete the reading of this paragraph. The idea of a folk tradition being exclusively confined to oral transmission has become much looser, less severely guarded concept. If it is a less severely guarded concept, that means anybody can change folk music, recorded music, and even TV for today's metropolitan generation are where the equivalent of folk memories are seeded. Okay, that's all right. You are just saying that folk traditions keep on changing, and here you are specifically talking about the second wave of this folk revival, the second wave of folk changing. Okay. Here is our recap, and now we have to find the main idea. What the passage is about, by the way? That folk has historical origins, rather obscure historical origins, hidden, coming from various places, but it is in constant state of renewal and it is constantly influencing areas such as music and design. That's all. This is what the passage was about. Batao, was it difficult? It's okay to give a bit of more seconds to some passages, but I hope you are able to understand and appreciate the importance of creating a summary of each paragraph in your mind. If you don't do that, you will never be able to comfortably go to the next paragraph. Let's take a look at the question now. This is your question. You have 60 seconds. Make a shadow answer, and if you can, try to find out the option, and then we are going to do this together. Okay, so quite a number of you are asking for more time. Take 20 more seconds for this question. We will do that together. Yeah, we have a lot of time. Okay. Okay, let's do it. Oh, you're giving the answers. Go ahead. 10 more seconds. Just put in your answers. Okay. So let me do this question with you first. Then I'll pause for a minute or two. I'm going to answer a couple of your questions in the comment section, and then we will go to next question. The primary purpose of reference to William Morris and his floral prints is to show what? While we were discussing this thing in the passage, we discussed that this example has been given to tell you that the floral prints that were considered so wonderful during William Morris's time are now part of sofas. That means they are everyday occurrence. I'm not saying that they are bad. Understand the word. Genteel actually means good, petite. So they're part of genteel sofas, but author is trying to say that this is sort of an everyday thing now. The floral prints are everyday thing now. Similarly, the folk music is the folk music of the erstwhile time, the olden times, is now just conservative and regular music nowadays. That's all. Let's see which option captures this idea. Very easy. First says the pervasive influence of folk on contemporary art, culture and fashion. I am not talking about the influence of folk on art, culture and fashion. I am talking about the fact that earlier folk is now considered not so popular. Second, that what was once derided as genteel is now considered revolutionary. Na. ये तो opposite है. This is opposite. Author is saying the thing which we considered revolutionary earlier is now considered usual. Option says the opposite. Not my answer. That despite its archaic origins, folk continues to remain a popular tradition. That's okay even if it is popular tradition. But your idea is that the things that were earlier revolutionary are now considered everyday. Think of it as an example. You all probably would have come from some form of a cultural background where there were folk songs. And now you might not consider, if not all, then some of them to be appropriate. So the things that you thought your mama, your papas, your grandfathers, mothers and so on, your aunts, masis and all were singing, let's say in a wedding or somewhere. You are now thinking, gee man, what does this mean? So the thing that was revolutionary at that time is now considered everyday. Even if you don't think of it as chi, you might think that, yaar, come on, play some hep song. Yeah, this is the meaning of it. And that's why probably you're seeing that a lot of folk songs are coming up in a revived manner. Bajre da Setta. Anyway, don't go by that. Fourth is the answer, that what is once regarded as radical in folk, earlier which was regarded as radical in folk, can later be seen as conformist, something which is conforming to the usual things. Ki haan, we know that, very usual, we know that. Perfect, very nice. Go ahead. Acha, wait, I had to take up some questions. So I think, let's wait for a minute. How to do these kind of paragraphs, the ones which are abstract. This requires active reading only. There is no other way. But I can suggest you something that will help you become better at it. Every day, I think you should read one article, abstract article. You can use Aeon for that. You can use All Daily, ALDAILY, alldaily.com for that. ALDAILY.com, and the other thing is AEON, Aeon. You can use that. And whatever you read, write down the summary of it in your own words, even if that summary is rubbish. And then put that entire article in ChatGPT or Perplexity, because for a lot of users it is free now for a year, and ask for the summary, and then ask it to compare your summary with the actual summary and see what is the difference in your understanding and the understanding of that. Okay, and keep on doing this thing every single day. Let's say you do one article every day, so you would at least be doing 60 articles, what 3,000 words, and that's going to be wonderful. If you can't do 3,000 words every day, 1,500 will also do, but not less than that. It will help you immensely to deal with abstract passages. Another question was, okay, kindly slow down a little bit. So we did that already, I think. Then I just avoid abstract. Don't avoid it. Just because you think that words like conservatism, nihilism, bourgeois, modernity, intellectualism, will, conformity kind of words, like, come on, yaar, that's not the reason to reject a passage, na? We just saw that by spending a bit of more time and finding out the main thing that was talked about, we could do this passage so easily. And yes, vocabulary plays an important role. And again, when you are reading every day, find out some words, write them down in a particular journal, write the meaning of it and one sentence. Thrice a week, pick up that book and go through it. See the magic happening. I'm running this marathon right now because I know that you can still do that magic. We still have time. If I had run this marathon, let's say, 2 weeks before CAT, it would not have been useful for you at all. Would have probably given some boost to the ego of some of the people who are already way high. But then that's not the intent, na? Chali, let's go back. Oh, I showed the shadow answer. That's okay. Let's do this together. Which of the following statements about folk revivalism of the 1940s and 60s cannot be inferred from the passage? Okay, let's find out everything which is related to 1940s and 1960s. Now, this is something which you have to go back to the passage and check for a moment. Let's see. Freedom and rebellion were popular themes during the second wave of folk revivalism. Yeah, that is given. Freedom and rebellion were popular themes. This was mentioned in para 4 that for the second wave of folk revivalists, the vital spark was communism's dream of a post-revolutionary New Jerusalem. Great. We want to be free from something. We want a new land, or we want to claim that thing. So first is correct. We have to find out the one which we cannot infer. Second, it reinforced Cecil Sharp's observation about folks' constant transformation. Yeah, that is also mentioned during the observations of 1960s, that Cecil Sharp said that it has always existed in the state of constant revival, constant transformation. True. So not my answer. Third, electrification of music would not have happened without the influence of rock music. Where is electrification mentioned, by the way? Yeah. Author is simply telling you, I think, yeah, electrification, yes, comes in many forms. If I say Rajma rice comes in many forms, that means there is not just one way of making Rajma rice or, bringing that on table. Your option says electrification of music would not have happened without influence of rock music. No. If electrification is coming in many forms, that means just one form cannot be the necessary and sufficient condition both for it. Third is something which I cannot infer therefore. So it should be the answer. What about fourth? Even though it led to folk rock's golden age, it wasn't entirely free from critique. Yeah, that is all right. It was definitely, so people were saying that this is both fashionable, unfashionable. Some people are treating it as yes, some people are treating it as nothing, wonderful and so on. So we can infer this thing also that yes, golden age was there, but there were some people who were opposing it. So I can infer that also from this idea. Third is something which I cannot infer, and therefore that should be the answer. This is your next question, and you have 40 seconds. Make a shadow answer first. Try to pick up the answer. I might increase that time by 20 seconds more. Go ahead. Okay. One student is asking if we can do the entire RC in one go instead of para by para. So beta, on the go, we will have to do it para by para. If I have to give you the entire RC, I'll probably have to, give you a very cluttered form of the whole passage. Then I will have to give you 5 minutes or so. And that will just break the momentum. Because you are going to do this para by para in the exam, because that is our 5 pause approach, let's do it in one go. So don't worry about it. Okay? Anyway, these questions are the previous year paper questions. There's a reason we have chosen them. Some of you might have already done them. But given that you are quite enthusiastic, I'm very happy that you are taking it in a wonderful spirit. So it's like, the beginning of your PYQs. Chaliye. The author says that folk may often appear a cozy fossilized form. Because, why author is saying that? Cozy, fossilized, means chill, not changing, stagnant. This is called cozy and fossilized. Let's see which option captures this idea. Take a look at this portion of the passage. In Britain, folk may appear a cozy, fossilized form, but when you look more closely, the idea of folk has always been a contested territory. So author basically just want to say that folk may come across as something which is of olden times. Cozy, stagnant, fossilized, folk, not today, from some yesteryears. Any option that talks about folk coming from olden times should be my answer. Let's take a look at the options. First, it has been arrogated for various political and cultural purposes. Does it tell me that it is coming from olden time? No. We don't know what political and cultural purposes it is arrogated from. So I don't know the timeline, one cannot be the answer. Second, the notion of folk has led to several debates and disagreements. Agreed, it has led to. But the meaning of it being cozy and fossilized is not this, that it is in disagreement. Cozy and fossilized means that it is old. Not my answer. Third, of its nostalgic association with pre-industrial past, talks about association of folk, nostalgic association, old times association with a pre-industrial past. Seems like an answer, talking about that it is coming from history, from past. And folk is a sonic shabby cheek with antique veneer. And this is rather, put in a very positive light, that folk can be looked as something which is shabby, but with an antique veneer, but that shabbiness looks wonderful. So I'm not talking about the idea of folk being wonderful. I'm talking about the idea of folk being old. Sorted. My answer is 3. Shadow answer works. Agreed? Let's do the next one. Go ahead. Okay. All of the following are causes for plurality and diversity within the British folk tradition, except, that means, what is not the cause for plurality and diversity of folk? The things that are talked about related to British folk tradition are these. Para 3 and I think para 2 is also there. Yeah. Let's see which option is the cause of plurality and diversity, and that will not be my answer because you have to find out the except one. First, the fluidity of folk forms owing to their history of oral mode of transmission, mode of transmission. Yeah. Author says that just a sec. Folk songs existed in constant transformation and they are just changing. So author says that fluidity of folk forms owes to the history of it being oral. So from one person it has gone to another person. See the example which is mentioned, that one person sings a song, then another person sings after him, and that person changes what he or she does not like. So definitely the fluidity of folk form, the dynamic element of folk forms is related to that they are transmitted orally. So this is correct, not my answer. Second, paradoxically, folk forms are both popular and unpopular. Very interesting. I really love this one. Initially, we think that this cannot be the answer because yes, author has said that folk forms are both popular and unpopular. But read the question. What is the cause of plurality and diversity of folk? Something being popular or something being unpopular is not the reason of diversity. It is just people's attitude towards a particular style. Let me give you an example. let us say that half of you like sambar dosa and half of you do not like it. So sambar dosa is popular and unpopular both. But that is not responsible for 10 types of sambars and 1000 types of dosas. Another example could be Fanta Maggi. People from Delhi and NCR region, at least the people from DU would know about this thing better. Fanta Maggi is another diversity of Maggi, but it did not originate from popularity or unpopularity. So something being popular and unpopular is not the reason for the diversity of something. Yes, folk is both popular and unpopular, but this is not going to be my answer. So when you say that is popularity and unpopularity of something related to plurality and diversity of it, no, I cannot infer this thing, which means this should be the answer of the question. Let me keep it. Let's talk about third. That British folk continues to have traces of pagan influence from Dark Ages. Yeah. That they existed in constant transformation and it is a shabby chic containing elements of uncanny, eerie, antique veneer, heathen Dark Ages, Britain's heathen Dark Ages. Yes, so it has influence from Dark Ages, and because of that influence, the variety of folk songs is happening. Fourth says that British folk forms can be traced to remote past of the country. It's the same thing. That yes, it comes from the history of that country. So correct. 1, 3 and 4 I can easily infer from this idea. 2 is not going to be inferred, and that's why that should be my answer. Let's take a look at this question. You have 60 seconds. Go ahead, give it a shot. Okay. At a conference on folk forms, the author of the passage is least likely to agree with which of the following views. Now again, this is an application question. None of these things would be given in the passage. What would author least likely agree with? Anything that goes against the argument of the author. What is the argument of the author? Folk is ever transformative in this transformative world. Folk is changing in this changing world. Any option that says that folk music does not change is something that author would not agree with. Shall we? Let's see which option captures this idea. Folk forms, I'm reading option number 1, in their ability to constantly adapt to the changing world, exhibit an unusual poise and homogeneity with each change. Okay. Folk forms, in their ability to constantly adapt to changing world, exhibit homogeneity with each change. That means there was a song, Dara Dum Dum, Dum Dum Dara, Dum Dum Dara. Now this folk song, to adapt to the changing world of today, is keeping the homogeneity. World is changing. Now, the way of wedding is different as compared to what it was, let's say, a couple of years ago. But still my folk song that my mama is singing is Dara Dum Dum, Dum Dum Dara, Dum Dum Dara, because it is homogeneous. Homogeneity means no change. So this option says that folk music is not changing despite the change in the world. Author will not agree with that, right? So 1 can be my answer. Let's keep it. Let's take a look at 2. The plurality and democratizing impulse of folk forms emanate from improvisation that its practitioners bring to it. This means that folk gets improvised by people. That means folk changes. It is in line with author's argument. Author would agree with it. Not my answer. Third, folk forms, despite their archaic origins, remain intellectually relevant in contemporary times. Okay, even if it is intellectually relevant or not, has it changed or not? We have no information on that. In fact, there is another way of dealing with this option. If something has remained intellectually relevant in today's times also, that means it has adapted to today's times. If it has adapted to today's times and it is still relevant, that means it must have been changed according to today. So it is offering a lot of depth to author's argument, so not my answer. Fourth, the power of folk resides in its contradictory ability to influence and be influenced by present while remaining rooted in the past. So even if it is rooted in the past, it is still getting influenced by the present, and it has the ability to influence, but how it is influencing? By changing its course. And see, it says that it is rooted in the past. Sometimes we think that this can be the answer. It is rooted in the past. Something which is rooted in the past does not mean that it has not changed. If I say that there is a song, Bajre da Sitta, and now the song is rooted in the past, but now this song is Dikchik Bajre da Sitta. It is still that. But yeah, it is still rooted in the past. Yes or no? Now if I change it from Bajre da Sitta to, corn da Sitta. From Bajra you have changed it to corn because people might not understand Bajra, even if it is gluten free. So the idea is, it is still rooted in past. Hey, I have changed from Bajra to this thing called corn or wheat. Okay. And that's all. But it has still changed, na? So you have to understand that something being rooted in the past doesn't mean that it is not changed. And author has not mentioned that whether this new thing has changed or not. Author has simply said that it is influenced from the past. Okay. Not my answer therefore. Because my answer has to categorically say that the folk of today does not change. Only then it will be opposite to author's argument. And that's why my answer is 1. Wonderful. Everybody got that? Perfect. So let us take maybe 120 seconds of break. Shall we? Let's take 120 seconds of break. Go for a quick sip of water. I also want to do that. And then we are going to resume. The session is live. If you have any questions, keep on posting them here and I'll pick up. Okay, break is over. Let's do it. Next. Go ahead. And for this one, you have 40 seconds. Find out the topic and the argument. Start. And I am hoping that you guys are not taking the screenshot and putting that in ChatGPT and asking for the summary. Please don't do that. Okay. There is no point in, cheating yourself. Do whatever you can. That's okay. Okay, very easy. Somebody is talking about a phenomena called topophilia. Topophilia. Philia means love. Topo means topography. If you don't know that, that's okay. Author has mentioned the meaning of it. So never fear a new word. There is a good chance that author would have talked about it. Topophilia is the affective bond between people and place, and people are emotionally attached to the geography. That is what this 1974 book by Yi Fu Tuan is talking about. Factors influencing one's depth of response to environment include cultural background, gender, race, various things basically which can make you feel attached to the location. And topophilia might not be the strongest of human emotions. So it is not one of the strongest emotions. It is strong, but not the strongest of human emotions. Indeed, many people feel utterly indifferent towards environment that shape their lives. But when activated, it has power to elevate a place to become the carrier of emotionally charged events. You might not have topophilia. That's okay. But somebody who has would have a strong attachment to the place. So I am talking about topophilia. And the argument is that this is an emotional bond between people and places. Next, 40 seconds. Okay. Aesthetic appreciation is one way in which people respond to the environment. A brilliantly colored rainbow after gloomy afternoon showers, a busy street alive with human interaction, one might experience the beauty of such landscape that had seemed quite ordinary only moments before. Okay, just an example of topophilia. And then author says this is quite opposite of a second topophilic bond, namely that of acquired taste for certain landscapes and places that one knows well. Okay, when a place is home, or when a space has become the locus of memories or the means of getting a livelihood, it frequently evokes a deeper set of attachments. Same thing, that people can respond to an environment in various ways. Can I say that this passage is telling us how people are attached to geographical places in terms of the emotions that they are exhibiting, in terms of the feelings they are having, and how those feelings arise? Could arise from appreciating its beauty, could arise from it being a familiar place or a sensory delight. That's all. Nothing. Just a hoo-ha. Let's go ahead. 30 seconds. 30 to 40. Ten seconds to go. Time up. Topophilia. Okay, people's attachment to a particular place. So this particular idea has led architects and planners to create such buildings, places, geographical landmarks which can create an attachment to them. Basically, they want to replicate topophilia in a planned manner. Author says that although motivated by good intentions, their intentions are good. Oh, I am living in this particular society. Such attempts to create places rich in meaning are perhaps bound to disappoint. It's not gonna work. Simple. Why? Because topophilia cannot be designed, it cannot be quantified. Author says that, and its most articulate interpreters have been self-reflective philosophers, evoking marvelously intricate sense of place. So it means that if you are feeling topophilia, that is your own personal feeling, your bond with a particular place. So it comes from you, na? How can an architect design a particular building which can evoke a sense of attachment? It may evoke in some, it may not evoke in some, but it is not a guarantee, and that's why author is saying that the attempts to artificially create topophilia are bound to disappoint. Okay, simple. Para 4, 40 seconds. More time to read, 60 seconds. Fifteen seconds to go. Okay. Topophilia connotes a positive relationship, but it often is useful to explore the darker affiliations between people and place. Patriotism, literally meaning the love for one's terra patria or homeland, has long been cultivated by governing elites to do various nationalist projects such as war preparation and so on. So author says that topophilia connotes a positive relationship. Okay, but there is a darker side of it as well. That means this affiliation between people and place can also be negative. Now here you have to understand one thing. The idea of patriotism is not wrong. Author is not saying that. Author says this idea of patriotism, that means your connection with your homeland, can be wrongly utilized by somebody. Many times we confuse this thing that, okay, author basically is trying to say that patriotism is a wrong idea. No. So the negative connotation is coming from the wrong application of it. Okay. Wonderful. The passage is about topophilia, that it is an emotional bond between people and place, and it can take many forms, and it is difficult to design for, and it can have negative connotations as well. Okay. Ready for the questions? Here is your first question. Take 50 seconds or so, make a shadow answer, try to pick up your answer, and then we will discuss it. Ten seconds. Okay. Which one of the following comes closest in meaning to the author's understanding of topophilia? Application question. Again, none of these options will be given in the passage. So you have to understand what does author mean by topophilia, and any option that represents the same thing should be your answer. Topophilia is what? Your association, your close association, affiliation with geography, place. Let's see which option talks about that. Nomadic societies are known to have the least affinity for the lands through which they traverse. If nomadic societies do not have attachment with the places that they are going through, that means this is not topophilia, not my answer. This does not come closest in meaning to the author's understanding of topophilia. One is gone. Second, the tendency of many cultures to represent their land as motherland or fatherland may be seen as an expression of their topophilia. Yeah, absolutely. If you are considering a piece of land as your motherland, emotional attachment to a land, or a fatherland, emotional attachment to a land, is it topophilia? Yes, could be my answer. Let's shortlist it. Third, the French are not overly patriotic, but they will refuse to use English as far as possible, even when they know it well. How is their refusal of speaking English related to the emotional attachment to a place? It is not talking about emotional attachment or emotional detachment to a place. That's all. You are representing their idea of patriotism in a different manner. And anyway, author is saying that they are not overly patriotic, but they would not speak English. Not about language at all. Third is not my answer. Fourth, scientists have found that most creatures, including humans, are either born with or cultivate strong sense of topography. I am talking about topophilia, not topography. Topography means geography, you can say, in a very simple, when you draw certain things. So fourth is absolutely useless. My answer is 2. Go ahead. 40 seconds to 50 seconds on the clock. Make the shadow answer. Okay. In the last paragraph, author uses the example of residents of upscale residential developments to illustrate what point? Okay. Let's see the last paragraph for a moment. In the PPT, you will see the shadow answer first, but don't worry about that. Let's come to that later on. Author says, topophilia connotes a positive relationship, but it is often useful to explore the darker affiliations between people and places. Residents of upscale residential developments have disclosed how important it is to maintain their community's distinct identity. Why it is darker affiliation? If I am the resident of an upscale community, that means, a hi-fi place, a hi-fi rich place. So what I want to do, I want to show myself as distinct, as different from others, as better than others. That's why I am above. That's why upscale residential developments is talked about. Author says, often by casting themselves in a superior social position. So author just wants to say that this example is given to show that how people living in high-end locations, apartment, they want to show that they are superior than common people. Yeah, let's see which option captures that idea. This is so easy to do. First says manner in which environments are designed to minimize social exclusion. No, you are not minimizing social exclusion of their clientele. It is about your clientele thinking that it is superior than others. Somebody living, let's say, in very rich society, that person is thinking, huh, peasants living in floors, shoo, aisa. This is the example. So one is not showing that. Second, yes, it does. Social exclusivism practiced by such residents in order to enforce a sense of racial or class superiority. Yeah. Third, sensitive response to race and class problems. No, they are not sensitive. It's not about sensitive response. Oh, did I offend you? I'm so sorry. Nah, nothing like that. Fourth, introduction to nationalist projects by such elites. Nothing like that is discussed. My answer is 2. Basically, showing off yourself as superior to others. Next question. 50 seconds on the clock. Make a shadow answer. Okay. Which of the following statements, if true, could be seen as not contradicting the arguments in the passage? Not contradicting. So anything which is contradicting should not be the answer, right? And whatever is not contradicting or maybe agreeing should be the answer. Chaliye, let's take a look at this one. Let me show you a couple of paragraphs from which this answer can be traced, but as far as shadow answer is concerned, you cannot, of course, make one. So you will have to go back to various places in the passage on the basis of your options. And this was the question that I talked about in the beginning. Sometimes you can't make a shadow answer, but at least you would know where you have to look. So if you read, let's say, option number 1, then you should know in what paragraph something related to this is given. Let's start with it. New urbanism succeeded in those designs where architects collaborated with their clients. Passage says that urban designs tried to create a sense of topophilia, but they were not successful. Option says that they were successful. So this contradicts, na? Not my answer. Second, generally speaking, in a given culture, the ties of the people to and their environment vary little in significance or intensity. Passage says that people have strong emotional ties with the places. That's why patriotism has power. Option says that their ties are not intense. So it contradicts once again and not my answer. Third, the most important, even fundamental response to our environment is our tactile and olfactory response. The most important response to our environment is olfactory response. Tactile and olfactory response is not the most important, but one of the responses. This is what is mentioned in the passage. Option says that it is the most important, so it is not the answer. And fourth, patriotism, usually seen as positive feeling, is presented by author as a darker form of topophilia. Yeah, passage 4 reflects this idea that the very thing, the very association of people with the geographical place that they belong to, that patriotism can be used negatively as well, can come across as negative also. So fourth is something which is not contradicting the argument in the passage and therefore should be the answer. Go ahead. Very easy. Let's do it. The word topophobia in the passage is used. Why? Topophobia should be opposite to topophilia, na? Love of land is topophilia. Love, the emotional attachment to a land. But when the same land is evoking a sense of dread, then you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to visit it, you don't even want to think about it. That's called topophobia. Find that one. Very simple. That answer is, oops, I think I went slightly faster. To represent the feeling of dread toward a particular space or place. Yes. I mean, this is such an easy question. You don't even have to read the other options. All right. Next one. Go ahead. This marathon is a test of your endurance and my endurance. May you win. So buck up. You are doing wonderfully well. Time up. Which would best capture the meaning of the statement that topophilia is difficult to design and impossible to quantify? Any statement that says that topophilia cannot be designed, it cannot be artificial. Topophilia is a natural feeling. That's why you can't design it. Should be the answer, na? Let's see which option captures this. Architects have to objectively quantify spaces and hence cannot be topophilic. It is not talking about topophilia being natural. Not my answer. Second, the deep anomie of modern urbanization led to new urbanism's intricate sense of place. Okay. The deep anomie of modern urbanization has led to the new urbanism's sense of place, connection with the place. This means that you can design topophilia. Not my answer. Third, philosopher architects are uniquely suited to develop topophilic designs. If these architects can design topophilic buildings, places, that means it is possible to quantify, it is possible to design topophilia against it. This is against the question. Fourth says people responses to their environment are usually subjective and they cannot be rendered design. Bang on. Whatever, let's say I am thinking about a place today might be different from what Siddharth is thinking about, or Nikhil is thinking about, Khushi is thinking about. Could be different. My answer is fourth. All right, perfect. So we completed one more RC. 10 seconds break. You can have some water. I will also have it. Okay, so the time is up and now we will start the next one. And while you are doing the first paragraph, now I'll have my water. Start. 60 seconds, give me the title and the summary here. Think about it well. Wonderful passage. All right. This is also an interesting passage and definitely not the one that you should start your RC with. In fact, somebody asked a question earlier. what is the way of attempting the RCs in the exam? I would say that a detailed discussion on that we have done in something known as First Mile to CAT. Those of you who did not attend that, please do watch the video of it and ask your respective centers to help you with that. And the second this idea of this thing we would be discussing in this event called LMTC, Last Mile to CAT, that would be happening at your respective places, and for those it is not happening, it would be happening live online. So we would be touching upon this in that as well. Okay, but a simple ground rule is that you can pick up any way to solve your exam, but I generally start with RC because I know that RC is 66% of the paper. So I do not want to be in that space where I'm spending 15-20 minutes in doing VA and I'm only left with what, 20-25 minutes, and then I cannot probably find at least 3 RCs which would be required. You can have your specific goals to start with and to end with, but at least 3 RCs is something one should aim for, along with 5-7 VA questions to aim for a 95, 96, 97, 99 percentile. Okay. Yes, things are subjective in that according to you, but we can talk about that later. Chaliye, let's do this one. British colonial policy went through two policy phases, or at least there were 2 strategies between which its policies actually oscillated, sometimes to great advantage. Talking about something related to British colonial policy and how it progressed. At first, the new colonial apparatus doesn't mean anything else but the colonial machinery, police, government, etc. At first, the new colonial apparatus exercised caution and occupied India by a mix of military power and subtle diplomacy. Okay, this was first phase, slowly acquiring India. The high ground in the middle of the circle of circles. This, however, pushed them into contradictions. That means this was not beneficial for them. One policy was acquiring the places in India slowly. You can use your military might also and diplomacy also. But this was problematic. So whatever their sense of the strangeness of the country and the thinness of colonial presence, the British colonial state represented the great conquering discourse of Enlightenment rationalism, Enlightenment rationalism, entering India precisely at the moment of its greatest unchecked arrogance. So I am talking about British colonial policy on India. It went through 2 phases. First, it involved caution, dhyan se, cautionary, with a mix of military power and diplomacy, but this strategy was in contradiction to its conquering discourse of Enlightenment rationalism. Maybe author should talk about what is Enlightenment rationalism later on. But we know that the conquering happened in 2 phases. One slowly, mellow way, and the other one in not so mellow way. Go ahead, 60 seconds. All right. As inheritors and representatives of this discourse, which carried everything before it, this colonial state could hardly adopt for such long and self-denying attitude. Okay. It had restructured everything in Europe, the productive systems, the political regimes, the moral and cognitive orders, and would do the same in India, particularly as some empirically inclined theorists of that generation considered the colonies as massive laboratory of utilitarianism. Blah, 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 blah. Author is saying that, hey, Colonial state had to change certain aspects of it. The way they made the changes in Europe in terms of political regimes, productive systems, morality, cognitive orders, they would want to do the same thing in India. Then author says, consequently, as a consequence of it, remember these words, consequently, conversely, subsequently. Consequently means as a consequence of something. Subsequently means something which comes after something. And conversely means opposite. Consequently, the colonial state could not settle simply for eminence at the cost of its marginality. It began to take initiatives to introduce logic of modernity into Indian society. So they thought, how can I go deeper into Indian society? Let me introduce the concept of modernity to them. Concept of my modernity. British thought that I'm going to introduce concept of my modernity into India. But this modernity did not enter a passive society. That's a wonderful sentence. I just colonized a country called, Chandu country. People of Chandu country, now I think that, okay, if I have to colonize them, I have to give them what is modernity. But author says that I was not giving modernity to a passive society. That means this Chandu country is not a stupid country. They already have a sense of modernity with them. That is what author is trying to say. So you're not entering modernity into a society that is not aware of modernity. And then author says that sometimes its initiatives were resisted by pre-existing structural forms. Okay. At times there was a more direct form of collective resistance. Therefore, the map of continuity and discontinuity that this state left behind at the time of independence was rather complex and has to be traced with care. Because you are trying to provide modernity into a society which is already modern, or at least it has its own understanding of modernity, that's why they have resisted in some way. Okay. Author says this thing as only. Go ahead, para 3. Okay. Most significantly, of course, initiatives for modernity came to assume an external character. If I don't know the meaning of it, can I say that every initiative of modernity, if it is assuming an external character, that means you are trying to impose modernity from outside. The acceptance of modernity came to be connected. Okay. Acceptance of modernity. Now you are giving modernity to India and they are accepting it, and it is connected ineradicably with subjection. This again points to two different problems, one theoretical, other political. Theoretical because modernity was externally introduced, it is explanatorily unhelpful to apply the logical format of transition process to this pattern of change. Such a logical format would be wrong on two counts. First, it would imply that what was proposed to be built was something like European capitalism. Author says that modernity is seen as a subject, is an external force, and it was associated with subjection. And this change was not seen as a logical transition. That means there was some, they did not accept modernity in one go, Indians. Let's take a look at this one. Author says this thing wonderfully. But more fundamentally, the logical structure of endogenous change does not apply here. That means the change is not coming from within. Again, let's talk about Chandu country. Now I am telling Chandu, not Chandu, Chandu country, the people of Chandu country, that now you have to eat food with the help of spoons. You have to eat food with the help of spoons. They were eating with hands. And now I am doing some external push here. So I am opening a lot of restaurants. I'm also doing a lot of communal meals, bhandaras. But I give them chammach. They have to eat it by that. And in restaurants, I have written this thing. Using hands for your meal is prohibited. I mean, directly eating, you know. Or somebody is coming and telling you how to cut your meal, things like that. This is called external push. And then the author is saying that this transformation agendas attack as an external force. The externality is not something that can be casually mentioned and forgotten. It is inscribed on each move, every object, every proposal. So when you apply the modernity externally, people look at it, they think about it, it hits. That is what author is trying to say. Done. Next. Go ahead. 35 seconds for this. Okay. Quite apart from the externality of the entire historical proposal of modernity, some of its contents were remarkable. Okay, author is saying that, theek hai, I am pushing modernity. As a Britisher, I am pushing modernity, and that's externally influenced, externally motivated, and people are taking it with a pinch of salt. It is hitting them. But author is also saying that there are certain things which are also remarkable. So when they pushed economic reforms, that was remarkable. And then author says what happened was the creation of a degenerate version of capitalism, what early dependency theorists called the development of the underdevelopment. So what author is trying to say that economic reforms did not foreshadow a classic capitalist system. Instead, they gave rise to a degenerate version. They are saying that some of its contexts were remarkable. Economic reform did not foreshadow the construction of economy, but there was a problem with that as well. So you just have to understand that author is talking about the push coming from Britishers in terms of influencing their idea of modernity to Indians, and what was the impact of it. And let's talk about the main idea, which is related to this, that British colonial policy oscillated between exercising caution and taking steps to introduce modernity, which came to be seen as subjection. Now you have to do it rather than a logical transition. Wonderful passage. Here is our very first question. Before we start that question, there is a wonderful question that Sambhav asked, that everybody is saying that we should read, but how we are going to improve? See, this is so VA is slightly different from quants and even DILR, and all three have different way of approaching. In VA, you have to build that foundational skill of reading. If you will not do that, you can't do that in a flick of the time. So that is the kind of effort which is needed, and that's why I said that this is the test of both your endurance and my endurance, and more of your endurance, because every single passage which is more challenging is more challenging for your mind, more challenging for you to deal with this constant sitting through. But fight it. What else do you have to do anyway? If there is one seat in that IIM, that must go to you. Go ahead. Okay. Which of the following observations is a valid conclusion to draw from the author's statement that logical structure of endogenous change does not apply here. Here, transformation agendas attack as an external force. Very simple if you have understood the passage. What is the meaning of this thing? That external force means transformation was pushed, forced. It was not organic, it was not endogenous. If I go to Chandu country and the people in Chandu country are really amazed by my daily schedule. Okay, this guy is waking up at 5 a.m. and this guy is then going for a great run, then is doing yoga, pranayam, meditation. Oh wow, and in the evening, and now he's doing the work and so on. Oh, we should also adopt yoga. Oh, we should also run. And suddenly the obesity in Chandu country starts to reduce. That is called organic change, organic modernity. But if I say na, ab burger nahi milega, now you won't get burgers. And now it is forced. Doesn't matter whether it is for your benefit or not, it is forced. Na? You have to find out an option that talks about force. Let's read it now. First, Indian society is not endogamous. It is more accurately characterized as aggressively exogamous. Aggressively exogamous doesn't capture the idea that who forced the change. If you say that it was aggressively exogamous, that means coming from outside, what is that influence? So you have to talk about the fact that somebody pushed you, not that your influence always comes from outside. And that influence can be good also, yeah, right? But you've got to talk about that this is a forced change. That is not represented here. So you can keep this for a moment, but if you can find a better option than this one, we will select that one. Let's take a look at option number 2. The endogenous logic of colonialism can only bring change if it attacks and transforms external forces. Endogenous logic of colonialism can bring change only if it attacks external forces. So it says that it should come from non-external forces. This is against the idea of external force. So how can this be the answer? Third, the transformation of Indian society did not happen organically, but it was forced by colonial agendas. Now compare this with one. It says that it was forced, and it also tells us who forced it. And it also tells us that the transformation did not happen organically, not from within. Better answer, more comprehensive. Between 1 and 3, 3 is better. Fourth says, colonized societies cannot be changed through logic. They need to be transformed as external force. Here you are trying to defend external force argument. It is a good thing. You got to tell that transformation here was forced, not that this force is always good. Answer is 3. Wonderful question or not? Can capture your fancies in so many ways. Take a look at this one. 60 seconds. Okay. Consequently, the colonial state could not settle simply for eminence at the cost of its marginality. It began to take initiatives to introduce the logic of modernity into Indian society. Which of the following best captures the sense of the statement? The statement is saying that British now could not remain on margins. They wanted their absolute influence. To do that, they forced modernity into you. So, British would remain at the margin as long as they maintain their self-denying attitude ki haan, theek hai, it's okay. No, they will remain at margin. So, in order to overcome this marginality, they pushed. Let's see which option talks about that. First, the cost of colonial states' eminence was not settled. Therefore, it took the initiative of introducing modernity into Indian society. The cost of colonial states' eminence was not settled. It is not about settling the cost. It is about, if you have entered Chandu's country and the people of Chandu's country are not even treating you as somebody, so you are on margin na. Aa gaye. What will they do? Sheh, aisa. To avoid that marginality, they focused on external force. Talk about the fact that they were on margins. Second, the colonial state felt marginalized from Indian society because of its own modernity. Therefore, it sought to address that marginalization by bringing its modernity to change Indian society. Yes, they wanted to introduce modernity because they did not want to remain marginalized. Plus, they introduced modernity to not a passive society. That means they had their own modernity as well. So they want to change it. Good one. I can keep it. Third, the colonial enterprise was a costly one. So to justify the cost, it began to take initiatives to introduce logic of modernity. Nahi, it's not about cost. It is about people are not taking us seriously. Hey, please eat with spoons. I'm not gonna eat that. Okay, I'm gonna beat you then. This is what the Britishers thought. So third also will not be the answer. Second so far is okay. Fourth says the colonial state's eminence was unsettled by its marginal position. Acha. Therefore, it developed Indian society by modernized it. The colonial state's eminence was unsettled by its marginal position. So fourth is an interesting one, how it is different from two. It says, so to do that, they developed Indian society by modernizing it. So here, it seems that modernization was good for Indian society. But author is actually trying to say that you want to introduce modernity because they don't treat you seriously because they have their own form of modernization that they value. So you want to change that. You here are not talking about it. Fourth simply says, okay, they modernized it, so they developed Indian society with the help of that. Developing Indian society by your modernization does not capture the idea that there was conflict also while you were doing it. So between 4 and 2, 2 is a way better answer, captures everything. That should be. Go ahead. Which of the following 5 word sequences best captures the flow of argument in the passage? To do such a question, I would recommend, think about what are the important elements of this passage and then see those important elements in the form of these words in any given option. Try that. Ten seconds to go. Okay, let's see. Wonderful. Let's understand what the passage is talking about. Can I say? And you can give me a quick yes or a thumbs up in the comment section. Can I say author is talking about British trying to introduce themselves in India through 2 phases? Yes, perfect. Then what were those 2 phases? First, it was a mellow phase and then they wanted to give a push, some force. They want to give you their idea of modernity. Very important. And this modernity was subjection instead of being endogenous, basically forced. That is what we discussed. And then author talks something about economic system also and gave a conclusion that this thing gave rise to a degenerate version of capitalism. Let's see which option captures these ideas well. First, military power. Military power. Military power is very specific. When you talk about military power, it simply means external force. That's all. So it does not capture the two phases of colonial apparatus influencing you or imposing itself on you. Military power is just one thing you can think of, like external force. And by the way, think about it, my dear. External force, author has said, can come from various types of laws also that you are creating. How is military involved in it? Let's say government wants you to adopt to something, but you don't want that. They create a law. So military power is a very, very limited understanding of the passage, so it should not be. And then it doesn't talk about anything here. First one, arrogance, laboratory, modernity. This is not what I'm talking about. With the same logic, I'll eliminate 2 also. Third says colonial policy. Yes, I'm talking about colonial policy. Enlightenment. Yes, I'm talking about that as well. Very important. External modernity. True. Subjection. Underdevelopment. Underdevelopment can be thought of as a degenerative version of something. I can keep it. So if 4 is better than this, I'm going to pick 4, otherwise 3. 4 says colonial policy. Yes. Arrogant rationality. Okay. Resistance. Resistance from what? Independence from what? Development? No. Not talking about subjugation, not talking about pushed modernity, not talking about the idea of underdevelopment or degeneration. Third is the better one, captures my idea as well. That should be the answer. Wonderful, na? Chali, let's do this. Go ahead. 60 seconds on the clock. Fifteen seconds to go. Okay. All of the following statements, if true, could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage, except, that means which will not support the argument given in the passage. Okay. Let's check out. First, the change in British colonial policy. I love this question. It requires a bit of more thought. The change in British colonial policy was induced by resistance to modernity in Indian society. Change in British colonial policy happened because they resisted modernity. No. British came to India. They started with a kuchi approach. Oh, we will conquer this, we will conquer that. Then they thought, people are not taking us seriously. Let me modernize them. Yes or no? So my dear, the change in British policy happened because they were feeling marginalized. People were not treating them seriously. They did not change their policy because people started opposing the policy. That is the importance of carefully reading the option. Now see, sometimes it is mentioned in the passage that when Britishers tried to impose their modernity in you, there was an opposition. But that did not lead to the change in policy. This modernization was the very change in the policy, and it happened because of marginalization. So one is not supporting the argument in the passage. That should be the answer. But let us still take a look at 2, 3 and 4 for a moment. 2 says modernity was imposed upon India by British and therefore led to underdevelopment. Yes, the whole passage is about it. Definitely supported, not my answer. Third, throughout the history of colonial conquest, natives have often been experimented on by the colonizers. Yes, I can infer that as well, because author says that it offered them a great laboratory to experiment. India is a laboratory for Britishers. Kar lo jo karna hai. Do whatever you want to. Fourth, introduction of capitalism in India was not through the transformation of feudalism as happened in Europe. Yes, it was not through the transformation of feudalism, it was forced. They did not want to improve upon something. Europe required improvement because there was a feudalistic system there. Here, Britishers, when they came to India, they did not think, oh, let me reform them, let me make them better. They were already better. In fact, their policies later led to feudalism. Now, this is an external information I am telling you, but that later led to feudalism, right? But yeah, definitely, fourth is also something which I can infer. My answer is 1. Perfect. Wonderful. Go ahead. Okay. Do you find the similarity of this question with any other question that we have done so far? Just a yes or no will do. I just want to see something. Absolutely. Let's take a look at this. All of the following statements about British colonialism can be inferred from the first paragraph except, let's talk about first paragraph. All of the following can be inferred except what you cannot infer from first paragraph. Okay, let's see. First, it was at least partly an outcome of Enlightenment rationalism. Yes, this is given, not my answer. Second, it was at least partly shaped by, see, partly, not entirely. Shaped by European modernity, yes. They wanted to introduce European ideas here. Motive was different, but they wanted to introduce European ideas there. This is mentioned. So, can be inferred? Not my answer. Third, allowed the treatment of colonies and experimental sites. Yes, it is also given. We discussed that in first one. I think I've mentioned it here as well. Yeah, take a look at this fourth sentence. They considered the colonies a massive laboratory for other theoretical experiments, utilitarian and other theoretical experiments. Fourth, they faced resistance from existing structural forms of Indian modernity. Now, understand. This is similar to that previous question we just did. Author nowhere says that British colonialism faced resistance from Indian society regarding modernity. Wait. Indian modernity is not resisting them. British simply wanted to be not marginalized anymore, so they imposed their idea of modernity on Indians. So here you are saying that they faced resistance from existing structural forms of Indian modernity. When you imposed your modernity on them, it was a subjugation. You are pushing something. Then they are opposing that as well, but their action, their colonial action that we want to do this thing happened because of marginalization. So this is the answer. But this is a question which requires a bit of more thought in understanding, because sometimes we can confuse it with the idea that yes, when they started pushing their modernism, Indians opposed it. And it is not related to British colonialism, how the colonialism happened, but we can mix it. If that happens to be the case, then you should leave such questions. And this is one such question, even though comes from similar idea that we discussed earlier, is worthy of leaving. You can leave it unattempted. So it is important that you pick your battles. All right. Now we have another passage, and before that, let me address a very interesting thing. Somebody asked that will we be doing RCs only? So here is one thing which we can do. Let us do one more RC and then we will be doing some of the VA questions. Works? And do let me know if you need another 2 minutes break now. It is almost 6:30. We are 2.5 hours into the session. You can let me know that. Okay, perfect. ठीक है. So stay there. Wonderful, wonderful things are coming up. Whatever VARC you are going to do today, my dear, is going to remain in your mind for a long time. It is going to increase the hunger for this section in you, and whatever things that were keeping you from solving VARC earlier, be it comprehension of a difficult passage or anything, everything will be mitigated. Just stay put. Eat something if you want to. Let me give you 3 minutes break. Go ahead. All right, my dear ones, we are back. Let's do this, RC. Your time starts now. You have 40 seconds. Find the topic and the argument. And this time I also want to ask you, is it first RC or not? Can it be the first doable RC or not? Just a yes or no. I would do it, I would not do it. You have to write that down on the basis of this paragraph only. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Every single person has said that yes, I would attempt this. Great, na? That means you are understanding how to do the RC selection. Chaliye, let's take a look at this one. The magic of squatter cities is that they are improved steadily and gradually by their residents. To a planner's eye, these cities look chaotic. I trained as a biologist and to my eye they look organic. Squatter cities, sort of a fancy name for the cities which are sort of quite closed, sometimes clumsy and things like that. So author says that they are unexpectedly green. They have maximum density 1 million people per square mile in some areas of Mumbai and have minimum energy and material use. People get around by foot, bicycle, rickshaw, or universal shared taxi. Okay. I am talking about squatter cities and the fact that squatter cities are good and they are improved by their residents and they are environmentally friendly. This is what my passage is about. Go ahead. Next. Now I'll give you only 40 seconds. Shuru ho jao. So when you create a summary in your mind and when you compare it with the written summary, it gives you another idea ki haan, am I doing it well or not? And that is exactly what Aradhya wrote. Very well done, beta. Good. Ten seconds to go. Okay, not everything is efficient in slums. So earlier authors started with the idea that squatter cities like slums are very environmentally friendly and they are quite good also. But then author says that not everything is efficient in slums. In the Brazilian favelas where electricity is stolen and therefore free, people leave their lights on all day. But in most slums, recycling is literally a way of life. Dharavi slums example is given. And then example of Vietnam and Mozambique is also given. So author is saying that not everything is all well in slums, but still author talks about the positives of that. Again, recycling is the way of life. Overall, squatter cities are beneficial. Now I have a question to ask you. In the earlier one, let me just take you back to para 1. I said that squatter cities are gradually improved by residents. They are green and they are environmental friendly. Do you agree with me that author is giving you the example of recycling being one of the prime elements of squatter cities, and not just in India, but let's say in Mozambique and Vietnam as well? it is just showing that these slums are environmental friendly. So we joined it, na? We connected it. Wonderful. Yeah. In his 1985 article, okay, there are 2 paragraphs. Read them together and give me the summary. You have 60 seconds. Okay. In his 1985 article, Cal Thorpe made a statement that still jars with most people. Cal Thorpe made a statement and it jars with people. Jarring with people simply means doesn't go down well with people. If I say a statement to you and it doesn't go well with you, then I can say that I am making a statement which is jarring for you. Okay, and it still jars with most people. So what is that statement and why does it jar with people? Why it is not in agreement? Let's see. The city is the most environmentally benign form of human settlement. Each city dweller consumes less land, less energy, less water. Okay. Green Manhattan was the inflammatory title of 2004 New Yorker article. And by the most significant measures, New York is the greenest community in the United States and greenest cities in the world. Now see, of course, this is the thing which will not go well down with a lot of people. Na? When you say, let's say New Delhi, New Delhi still has, a lot of greenery. Let's find out a place which is smaller than New Delhi. I think Mumbai is quite populated and smaller than New Delhi. Don't consider the trees over there for a moment, but let's say if somebody says that Mumbai is the greenest city, despite knowing that every few steps you would see a 40-story building, this would jar with people. But the author here is trying to say that hey, the idea of greenery or the idea of green is not coming from trees. It is coming from consumption per capita. And that is what author is saying. Placing 1.5 million people on 23 square mile island sharply reduces the opportunities to be wasteful. A tower, 100 floor tower, you can say. In the same land, so many people are living. That is the idea of green which is talked about. An urban density allows half of humanity to live on 2.8% of the land. Consider just the infrastructure efficiencies. So giving a lot of examples of how these cities are efficient. But see, here you are not talking about the slum cities. Now you are talking about proper urbanized cities, but in the sense that high level of urbanization is leading to better use of natural resources. And this is something which would jar with people. So some people have argued that cities are most environmentally harmless form of human settlement. This is what this guy is talking about, Cal Thorpe. And urban density forces people to live efficiently. Okay. I have no idea what is this happening. One second. Oh, I'm so sorry guys. No, I mean it's not my fault. There was an ad that was ongoing. I thought that I have done something with my system. I hope you are able to see only my screen now, or you might have skipped the ad if it came on your computer. I don't know how it worked in the live session. Okay, coming to this. The nationally subsidized city of Manaus in northern Brazil answers the question of how to stop deforestation. I'll stop here for a moment. Think about it. What is the meaning of it? And also think about why author has given the example of Manaus. Give me the argument. 40 seconds. Okay. Nationally subsidized city of Manaus in northern Brazil answers the question as to how to stop deforestation. Okay. How does it answer that? Give people decent jobs. So if you give people jobs, they will not cut trees. All right. Then they can afford houses and they can gain security. 100,000 people who would have otherwise be deforesting the jungle around Manaus are now prospering in town, making such things as mobile phones and televisions. Let's think about it and connect it with the previous one. If I say that give people decent jobs, they will not cut the trees. Okay, let's say there is a country called Bablu. The people of Bablu country are currently unemployed, so they start cutting trees and they will live there probably. But if you give them job, they will not cut the trees. Why? Why? Why author has said that this example of Manaus is answering the question. Why do you want to stop deforestation? What is deforestation related to this slums and urban cities and so on? Because here author wants to tell you, and see it is given, that they would otherwise be deforesting the jungle. They are now prospering in town, making such things as mobile phones and televisions. So can I say that the example of Manaus is given to tell you how urbanization, Shahrikaran, is ensuring environment friendliness? If you would give them jobs and they are happy in the towns, then they would not go to the jungle and cut the trees, na? That is what you have to understand. Okay, there is a question on it. We'll talk about this thing once again. Go ahead. Sixth. All right. Of course, fast growing cities are far from unmitigated good. They concentrate crime, pollution, disease and injustice as much as business innovation. Okay. But if they are overall a net good, then it is good. They are transformative in the slums as well as in the office towers. The progress is from hick to metropolitan to cosmopolitan. All right. Author is saying fast growing cities have disadvantages, definitely, but they are net overall good. 10 disadvantages, 90 advantages, overall good. That is what author is trying to say. Why? Because they are transformative. Okay, perfect. So we are talking about squatter cities. I have a question to ask, my dear. Are squatter cities only slums, according to the passage? Yes. But the passage is not about squatter cities only. Passage is telling you that if you concentrate living in very small region, then it is beneficial. And author has given the idea of cities that show this kind of resource efficient thing. Okay, let's see. Acha, it's okay if you think that squatter cities are not slums. Actually, they are not just slums, but because they are squatter cities, that they are in a particular place only. So yeah, I think we can take the big buildings also as squatter cities. Yeah. But the passage is talking about how cities are beneficial, which generally people do not think of. They think villages are beneficial. Okay. Chaliye, let's take a look at the question. Our question is here, my dear. Calthorpe's statement still jars with most people because you have 40 seconds to do that. You can easily do it now. Give me the answer. Okay. Let's do it. It jars with people. It means that they disagree with Calthorpe's statement. And what is his statement? That cities are environmentally good. So Calthorpe says cities are environmentally good, bro. And people are saying, oh, I'm going to throw stones at you. This is called jarring. We discussed that. Chaliye, let's see. Regard cities as a place of disease and crime? No. Consider cities to be crowded and polluted? No. Do not regard cities as good places to live in? No. People would be happy with that, by the way. What jars with people is the fourth one, that they do not consider cities to be eco-friendly places. Calthorpe is saying that they are eco-friendly, but people think that they are not. Fourth is the answer. Go ahead, next. Come on, wonderfully well. Okay. So you have to read the entire passage, not read, you have to go into the passage and see what are the benefits related to city are given. And whichever is not the benefit, that should be your answer. Author says, it can be inferred that cities are good places to live for all of the following reasons except. Okay, let's find out the reasons for why cities are good and we will eliminate that portion. First, it helps prevent destruction of the environment. Acha. Cities are good places to live because they help prevent destruction of the environment. Yes, they do prevent destruction of the environment, bhai. Just because I said it in this manner does not make it wrong, okay? So that's okay. This is a valid reason for why one should live in cities, because they do not let the environment degrade. Second, it contributes to cultural transformation of residents. Yes, that is also mentioned. From hick to metropolitan to cosmopolitan and then so on, all these things are mentioned. Third, they have suburban areas as well as office areas. Acha. If the cities have suburban areas and office areas, does it mean that they are good to live? Nowhere in the passage author has said that cities are good because they have suburban areas also, office areas also. In fact, think of it. If cities have suburban areas and office areas, that means people are currently situated or located in a city on a wider area, which actually goes against the idea of environmental friendliness. The very thing which makes cities environmental friendly is the compactness. So you can pick that as your answer. First, it is not mentioned, and second, even if it is considered, then it is not the reason why cities are a good place to live. Fourth says it offers employment opportunities. Yes, it does. That's why people in Manaus stopped deforestation. Na? Great. So my answer is 3. How many of you are realizing that RC is not that much of a devil as we make it out to be? And while you give me that answer, please do this question as well, 60 seconds. Please, please, please make a shadow answer. Okay, let's do it. Which of the following statements would undermine the author's stand regarding the greenness of cities? Author says cities are green. Cities contribute well for the environment. What would undermine, weaken his stand? Any option that says that cities are not beneficial for environment. Perfect. Answer is 2. The high density of cities leads to an increase in carbon dioxide and global warming. The very high density, which was the reason behind Calthorpe's argument that cities are beneficial for the environment, now you are saying that it is not. Should be the answer. Let's take a look at 1, 3 and 4 also quickly. 1 says over the last decade, the cost of utilities has been increasing for city dwellers. Sometimes people think this also is the answer because people are experiencing inflation. See, let's say I am living in a city and now I am getting my dal at 500 rupees a kg in city. But as long as cities are good for the environment, author is not concerned about my pocket. So first does not undermine the argument. And that's why shadow answers are important. Make a shadow answer, otherwise you would fall in this trap. Arey haan, lag to raha hai. It feels like that it is against the idea of goodness of humanity. Nahi re. You have to do what question is asking you to do. Let's take a look at third one. Sorting through rubbish contributes to rapid spread of diseases in the slums. Talk about cities, na? The compactness of big cities in West increases the incidence of violent crime. Okay. So much of crime is happening. Oh, one person killing another person. But resources that are being used are not too much. Great, good for environment. You have to question author's argument of greenness of cities. Read the question. Greenness of cities. How many of you felt that, okay, maybe fourth could also be the answer? And now you are realizing that I have to just restrict myself on greenness idea. Perfect. Wonderful. Great. Let's do the next one. Go ahead. Very, very simple. Just have to go to para 1 and 2 and find out the properties related to squatter cities. Okay, let's see. Squatter cities are environmental friendly for all of the reasons except. So whatever is the reason for them to be environmental friendly should not be the answer. They sort out garbage. Yes, it is given. Their transportation is energy efficient. Yes, they do shared thing and whatnot. Author has said that. Their streets are kept clean. Author has nowhere talked about it. They recycle materials. Yes, they do. What is the answer? Third. Batao. Acha, your judgment about that, hey, I am definitely going to attempt this one as my first RC. Was it right or not? So here I am going to answer an important question. Many students do ask. Sometimes I feel that even if my passage is difficult, easy, my questions can be difficult. So how should I choose? Should not I read the questions also? The answer is no. I am not teaching you that. No teacher, at least here in IMS, would have taught you to read the questions first. Sometimes it is helpful in the ADMAT exams, but not for CAT at all. Not for CAT. In fact, not for ZAT also. The best way is to read a couple of sentences in the beginning, maybe one paragraph, and identify if this is worthy of doing. And you weigh that on your language, on the topic, if you are friendlier with that or not, and on the organization of it, whether you think it is more descriptive, more analytical, and so on. And again, I'm referring to FMTC, first mile to CAT session, and the last mile to CAT session, which is happening right now and is going to happen until end of this month. So be part of it. Do check these things out. Okay. So next, go ahead. Why author has referred to the example of Manaus? Okay. In the context of the passage, the author refers to Manaus in order to do what? Very simple. Manaus example is telling me that if you provide jobs in the city, then it prevents people from deforesting the jungle, which means saving the environment. So you got to focus on the jobs in the city. And now I'm going to tell you what is the wrong and confusing option here. Okay. First, promote cities as employment hubs for people. If you are just promoting cities as employment hubs, then you are just saying that, hey, cities provide wonderful employment. It is not talking about environmental destruction, reduction in environmental destruction. So that is not why the example of Manaus is given. One is not the answer. Second, to describe the infrastructure efficiencies of living in a city. No. Manaus example is talking about living in city, working there, so that forests are not destroyed. So second also cannot be the answer. Third, explain where cities source their labor for factories. Acha. So the example of Manaus is given to tell you that, hey, you can find labor for your factories in Manaus. Nahi. This is useless. Fourth says how urban areas help the environment. How urban areas help the environment. Yes. Now the option that could have confused you could have been one, that cities are wonderful hubs for employment for people, but the focus cannot be just on employment. The focus has to be on environment, and that's what you have to understand. Wonderful, na? Perfect. So this is where we concluded our RC discussion. I have more RCs, but let's make this as the stopping or pausing point of RC for a moment, and now we will be focusing on some of the VA questions. Wonderful VA questions we will be doing. But before that, let us take another 3 minutes break. Go for a quick bio break or something, have something if you want to eat or whatever, and then we are going to return. Be with me. Let me leave you with a very interesting thought. It is said scripturally that whatever concentrated effort you do during the Navratri time is actually more powerful because your focus is high. And that is something I'm seeing right now. Don't let that go waste. Endure for a few more minutes and then end your discussion with a feeling that today I did something wonderful. See you in another 3 minutes. Okay, so we are back. Let me read some comments first. Can someone tell me if these live sessions are going to be in their playlist or is it going to disappear? Oh, I don't know about that. Ideally, they should not disappear because you are putting that on YouTube, and ideally they should not disappear. So let me try to address the question that you are trying to ask with this. I am hoping that you are thinking that if they are not going to disappear, that maybe I can do the rest of it later on or the other sessions at my own convenience because I cannot stretch for 4 hours. I do understand the sentiment behind it, but I would not recommend it. Okay, unless there is some form of very important, let's say office call or an emergency that has propped up, it would not be a good idea because these sessions are not about content as such. You know this content, you will get this content, it is there on your My IMS, it is freely available on web. Previous year questions hi to hain, right? What is the importance of this thing that we are doing this together? It's about momentum. How many of you are now feeling more confident than when you started today? Ki, arey yaar, I mean, not really an issue. And I can sit for this longer time. See, it's 7:10 already, yaar. More than 3 hours you have spent. And you are still alert. And we will be starting VA now. And we are doing some of the VA questions. Then we'll park some of these for the next marathon. Cool, na? Wonderful. Another question was, but when I attempt my 4 RCs, my comprehension goes down. Very specific to you. Analyze your SimCats really well. Take the help of a mentor if you want to analyze your SimCats, but please do that. But attempt 4th RC with caution if you have enough time and so on. Sometimes you can attempt only one question. Shadow answer trick is really helping. Wonderful. That means मेरा जन्म सार्थक हो गया. My very being is justified now. Wonderful if you are loving the marathon. Quant marathon was in the playlist, so this also will be in the playlist. Great. Chaliye, let's do it. So my dear, here are 5 sentences given to you. You have to find the odd one out. Before I give you some time to solve it, let me tell you how to solve the odd one out questions. Please listen to me carefully. Do not use para-jumbles approach when you are solving odd one out. I repeat, I want you to write it here in chat. Do not use para-jumbles approach, right? Don't use PJ approach in solving OOO, odd one out. Likho, write it. Good. Then how should you solve them? And I'll come to your question, Shrey, in a moment. Huh? I read it, yes. So, how should you do that? When you are using the para-jumbles approach, then basically you are doing 2 questions in 1 question. First, you are trying to re-jumble them, and then you are finding which one will not be part of that jumbling. Now, there is an interesting way. Interesting way is, read every sentence and find out its theme. Theme basically means the summary of that sentence. What is author talking about in that sentence? What is the topic of that sentence? Whatever you want to call it, just call it that. But read a sentence and make a theme of it. Make some idea that this is what is being talked in this. And here also, my dear, you are not supposed to read all 5 sentences in one go. This one we will do together. So don't worry about that. We will do this thing together. This particular question. But read the one sentence once, talk about it, write the theme down, then you read the next one and you keep on doing it. Now there are 2 things that can arise. One, I am writing my theme in a different manner than, let's say, Siddharth or Aditi or Sheel. How would I know whose theme is correct? Take a look at this first one. The logic of displaying one's inner qualities through outward appearance was based on distinction between being a woman and being feminine. Here can I say that author is saying inner qualities are judged through outward appearance. Let's say Aditi writes this thing, that this passage is about judging somebody's inner qualities through outward appearance, especially in case of a woman. But let's say Jiswin says that this passage is talking about that people are judging the abilities on the basis of how they look. Now tell me, are these two things different? No, right? That's exactly what I mean by the fact that you may use different words, but your idea of understanding will be same, na? Chaliye. So once you write down the theme of everything, what you should do then, you have to find out the dominant theme. Whichever is not part of the dominant theme should be your answer. So your next question arises, how should I find out the dominant theme? I agree that Jiswin will write it differently than Aditi and Rishabh will write it differently than Aradhya. But even I can write the theme of every single sentence differently. Yes or no? I can do that. How would I know which is the dominant theme? And this is such a wonderful question. Do let me know if you thought about it. Now this is where you will use one little trick from Parajumbles, and that's all. If you can find out two sentences that are closely connected, let's say some sentence says Raju, the other sentence says he. So noun pronoun link can be there, right? If you can find two sentences that are undoubtedly connected with each other, especially these noun pronoun links and transition links, but however yet therefore hence, do you believe that none of these two sentences will be odd one out because they both are connected? Yes or no? And thus done. That means if you find out two sentences that are closely connected with each other, the dominant theme reflected in those two sentences together is the dominant theme of the passage. Now you just have to find out which sentence is not falling in that broader idea. Khatam. Done. Shall we do this thing now? Be with me. Logic of displaying one's inner qualities through outward appearance was based on distinction between being a woman and being feminine. So one being feminine is displaying one's inner qualities. This is what I have written. Or you can say that your outward appearances are making people imagine the intrinsic qualities. Okay, let's see. Second, appearance became a signifier of conduct. To look was to be, and conformity to the feminine ideal was measured by how well women could use the tools of fashion and beauty industries. Can I say this sentence is also talking about the fact that how you look, how feminine you are, will decide how well you can do the things around fashion. So let's say if I am a woman and I am not looking so-called hotshot or so-called, hip, whatever you want to connote it as, I am a bit shabby. The person in front of me is judging, I will not take this person in my fashion industry. See how she is dressing here. She doesn't know how to dress. How will she dress others? This is the meaning of second. Do you agree with me? Similar to the idea which is mentioned in first. But who am I to judge right now? Let's go further. Third, the makeover centric media. Acha, see, I am not finalizing the dominant theme right now, okay? I'm just finalizing the theme right now of every single sentence. Third says, the makeover centric media sets out subtly and not so subtly good and bad ways to be a woman, layering these over inequalities of race and class. This talks about how media is portraying good actions on the perspective of a woman and bad actions. Media is saying this is how a woman should dress, this is good. Media is saying this is not how a woman should dress, this is bad. So media is dictating the terms on how a woman is behaving in a good manner or a bad manner. This is the meaning of it. Okay. Fourth, the denigration of working class women and women of color often centers on their perceived failure to embody feminine beauty. The denigration of working class women and women of color. So there are two types of women that are talked about, women of color and the working class women. They are denigrated, they are degraded. Often it centers on the perceived failure to embody feminine beauty. So it is considered that, let's say, black women or brown women and the working class women, think of it as a labor class women, they are ugly. Author is saying that they are ugly. They fail to embody feminine beauty. Can I say this also talks about judging a woman on the basis of outward appearance? Perfect. Let's go to fifth. Woman was considered a biological category, but femininity was a process by which women became specific kinds of women. This talks about that there can be so many women. Every other female is a woman, but not every other woman is feminine. Yes or no? Talks about the distinction between femininity and women. What two sentences do you think are connected? And sometimes you don't even have to find that out. How many of you were able to perceive this idea that this passage is saying that outward appearances are dictating the appearance of inner qualities to a third person? Perfect. Which sentence does not talk about it? Would you like to give me the answer of it? Don't tell me 5, 1, 2 are linked. If you are trying to just establish the dominant theme by linking 2 or 3 sentences, then it's okay. But I am hoping that you have not attempted the parajumble thing here. Wonderful. 3 is talking about how media is portraying what is good and bad. Rest of the sentences are talking about that dominant theme called that women are being judged on the basis of their outward appearance. That's all. Answer is 3. Cool. Okay. So let us now do a couple of wonderful questions. This is your next question. I have given you 5 sentences. I am going to give you 60 to 80 seconds. Give me the answer. If it is possible, give me the dominant theme also according to you, and then we'll discuss. Ten seconds to go. Not able to see the question. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. No, it was displacement in Bengal, na? I think. This. Oh. So even if you saw the final answer, because of my not so good ability of managing the transition. But I want you to give me the answer that you think should be the answer so that we can discuss. Last 10 seconds. Time up. Okay, let's do it. Displacement in Bengal is thus not very significant in view of its magnitude. In view of whose magnitude? And it is thus not significant. Seems like connected with something, maybe, will give me some idea. But here I am talking about that displacement in Bengal is not very much. Okay, this is moving a lot. The writing is not coming well. Displacement in Bengal is not very much as compared to the magnitude of something. Okay. As compared to something. A factor of displacement in Bengal is the shifting course of the Ganges leading to erosion of river banks. This again talks about the reason of displacement in Bengal. The nature of displacement in Bengal makes it an interesting case study. Okay. It talks about nature of displacement, that this is an interesting case study. Displacement in Bengal is something worth studying. You can write that way. Fourth, since displacement due to erosion is well spread over a long period of time, it remains invisible. It is telling me why displacement remains invisible. Rapid displacement would have helped sensitize people to its human costs. It is about displacement sensitizing people on something. Okay. What two sentences do you think are connected? Very, very easy to figure it out. 2 and 4. 2 tells me, 1 and 4. 1 tells me that displacement in Bengal is thus not very significant in view of its magnitude. And 4 tells you the reason on the basis of which you are reaching this conclusion. Okay, displacement is well spread over a long period of time, that's why it is not visible. Let's say because of the change in course of river, displacement is happening, displacement of land, displacement of people, or displacement of sand, anything, something like that is happening. And it is happening over a period of, let's say, 15 years. Then it is not visible. And because it is happening over a long time, the magnitude is so high, it's not very significant. So author is saying that don't worry about it. And this is the case study. So can I say that my theme is the case study on why displacement in Bengal is not very significant issue? Which sentence does not talk about it? 5th one. Because it talks about how displacement can sensitize you to something. It is not about the discussion on displacement as such, that it is not a significant issue. In fact, if it can sensitize public to human cost, then it is a significant issue. Hence the odd one out. Wonderful. Everybody got that? Perfect. Learning co-pilot. Got it? Why 5th will not be the answer? Perfect. Let's take a look at the next one. Go ahead. Those of you who are part of the IMS system, you might have done this question earlier in the lecture, but it is a wonderful question, so I still included it. And it's going to be a redo for you. 10 seconds to go. Much has recently been discovered about the development of songs in birds. Can I say this talks about development of songs in birds? I'll underline wherever underline would suffice. Second says some species are restricted to a single song learned by all individuals. Others have a range of song. Some species of what? Maybe this is connected with somebody, some sentence. And they are restricted to single songs. Some species of birds, let's say, sing only one song, which is learned by all individuals, and others have a range of songs. Can I say this also is talking about development of songs in various bird species? Third says the most important auditory stimuli for birds are the sound of other birds. This talks about what stimulates another bird. What auditory stimulus is the most important. Okay. Fourth says for all bird species there is a prescribed path to the development of the final song. Again talks about development of song in birds. And fifth says a bird begins with a sub-song, passes through a plastic song, achieves a species song. Talks about the various phases of development of song. Na? You start with a sub-song, then it becomes a plastic song in your species, then it becomes a species song. Now every chidiya is just doing the same choo 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 that everybody else is doing. Talks about development of songs again. So which sentence doesn't talks about development of songs in birds? Third one. And this is where I would bring one very interesting point. Somebody said that did that person remove it kya? Okay, I don't know the name, but somebody said that song is not mentioned in third, that's why it is odd one out. No, my dear. Do you all believe that this odd one out questions will be taken from a passage? They are picked from passage. You know, the sentences are picked from a passage. Think about a passage. Will every single sentence contain every single word? No. So you have to find out the logical connection, which will give you a dominant theme. Just because a word is not appearing, that does not make it odd one out. Because take a look at this one. That way, the word birds is not appearing in second also. So you should pick that also as odd one out or not. But we are not doing it. Reason being because we know that author says that some species are restricted to a single song means some species of what. So you know that this must be connected to something. Is that clear to everybody? So it is not about word matching. It is about identifying the theme and then going forward. Chaliye, let's take a look at another one. Go ahead. 60 seconds, 60 to 70 seconds. Twenty seconds to go. Okay, time up. Let's take a look at this. Our smartphones can now track our diets, our biological cycles, even our digestive systems and sleep patterns. Okay, what our smartphones can do? What smartphones can do? Okay. In fact, I think I should rather make it this. What smartphones can track, because they can do a lot of things, but I'm specifically talking about what things they can track. Second, researchers have coined a new term, orthosomnia, to describe the insomnia brought on by paying too much attention to smartphone and sleep tracking apps. It talks about the negative of smartphone tracking. By the way, let me tell you, in case of odd one out, even tone can help. Tone means author's attitude towards something. So if 4 are in negative tone, 1 is in positive tone, or 4 are in positive tone, 1 is in negative tone, the one which is not with others can be the odd one out. Tone really helps sometimes. Not sometimes. Every time tone helps, but it should be just visible. Third, sleep, which is nature's soft nurse, is a blissful, untroubled state, all too easily disturbed by earthly worries or guilty conscience. Sleep, lovely sleep, is disturbed by worries. Okay, I am worried, I will not be able to sleep. This is what author says. No, I am not worried. You also should not be worried. Fourth, the existence of a market for such apps is unsurprising. Shift work, long hours of culture, blue light from screens, all these have conspired to rob many of us of sufficient rest. This talks about that many tracking apps, in fact, I would say many sleep tracking apps are, groping us. जकड़ लिया है. Fifth, a new threat to good night rest has emerged: smartphones. Smartphone is a threat to good sleep. Perfect. Okay. What two sentences do you think are connected? 4 and 5. A new threat has emerged: smartphones, which with sleep tracking apps, and the existence of market for such apps. Such. See the word, such apps. कौन सी apps? Sleep tracking apps. And it is unsurprising. So they are creating havoc in our lives, but they are so many. And people are, oh, और ले आओ, bring more of those. 4 and 5 are connected. That can give me the dominant theme, na? That this passage is about smartphone being a threat to good sleep. Which sentence does not talk about it? 3. It is not talking about smartphone. It is not talking about it being a threat. It is simply saying that worries can make you sleepless. Answer is 3. Cool, na? Let's do this. Somebody saying that 5124 is the order of this odd one out. Take this thing out of your system that I have to create the order of it. No. No means no. नहीं करना. बिल्कुल नहीं करना. Okay? देखो, if you are browsing your smartphone, you're watching a lot of reels while realizing that reel watching is not good for you and I will not do that from today, and you read a quote that reel watching is problematic for you and you are realizing that it is problematic for you, but you are still watching it, does not make sense. The moment you become aware, oh, what am I doing? Throw your phone away, dude. No parajumble thing in odd one out. Okay. Last 15 seconds. Time up. Let's see. Machine learning models are prone to learning human-like biases from training data that feeds these algorithms. Okay. It says that machine learning models can learn from human biases. Machine learning models can learn from human biases. So far, I don't know whether it is said in positive light or not. You can learn from human biases and it can be beneficial because you would be able to remove the human-based biases then, because you have learned how humans bias. Or you would also start being biased as a machine. I don't know what is the implication of it, but that is what I'm thinking about right now. Second, hate speech detection is part of the ongoing effort against oppressive, abusive language on social media. Okay, it is talking about efforts towards identifying abusive language, and you are detecting. So maybe some form of machine learning could be involved. Okay, anyway, talks about hate speech detection or the efforts of hate speech detection. Efforts regarding, I should say, in this direction. The current automatic detection models miss out on something vital in context. Okay, what current detection models don't do. Fourth, it uses complex algorithms to flag racist and violent speech faster and better. Okay, it uses, what uses bhai? Something using complex algorithm to find out abusive speech. Fifth, for instance, algorithms struggle to determine if group identifiers like gay or black are used in offensive and prejudiced ways because they are trained on imbalanced data sets. So it talks about some algorithms finding it difficult to categorize some words as abusive or not. Okay. Okay. What two sentences do you think are connected? Very interesting. It uses complex algorithm. I think 1, 2 and 4 are connected. One talks about machine learning can learn from human biases. Hate speech detection is part of this effort that you want to remove the abusive language from social media. And this particular thing, this model, machine learning model or algorithm you can say, uses complex algorithm to flag out what can be construed as abusive. In fact, if you don't think 1, 2 and 4, 2 and 4 definitely can be connected, but because it says it uses, so what is it here? That's why I just included 1. Perfect. So can I say my dominant theme is how machine learning models are detecting abusive language? Now tell me one thing. If author is saying that how machine learning models are detecting abusive language, is it written in positive light overall or negative light? Positive, absolutely correct. Because author is saying that they use complex algorithms, it is part of our effort to flag racial things on social media and so on. So the two sentences which are not talking in positive sense are 3 and 5. And this is where you have to find out which will be the correct answer. Now see, even if 5th is talking about the lag in the algorithms, it is still not saying that algorithm is bad. It is just saying that there are certain words which are trained on complex data sets, and all these complex data sets again are coming from humans. They are trained on complex, they are trained on imbalanced data sets. So we don't know about that. That means it is improving, but it is still trying to flag the racial slurs. But third one is categorically saying that current automatic detection model is missing out on something important. That means they don't even think about what is the context of something. If an important element is getting missed out from the machine learning model, how can it be used to track all these wrong things? So third should be the odd one out. Perfect. Somebody is saying that abusive language stuff is not in one. Good that you caught that, my dear. Abusive language thing is not given in one. That's okay. As I told you earlier that this is taken from a passage. So not every passage will contain the same set of words. Huh? You have to understand. A machine learning model is learning from human biases. So if it is learning from human biases, it is using it to some advantage. Oh, humans think of a black person in this manner. Okay, so if somebody writes, you are behaving like a black guy, then this machine learning model, let's say ChatGPT, should be able to sense that you are trying to be abusive. Are you getting what I'm saying? Perfect. Chali. Let's do one more question. Sir, is 5 not explaining 3? No. Thank you for asking this question, Learning Copilot. If you have, a valid name, please do mention it here. I would say that out. So Learning Copilot is saying that isn't 5 explaining 3? Actually, it is explaining 3. And this is where the trick lies in such questions. Again, because it is taken from a big passage. It is taken from the same passage. Na? Logic dictates that what 4 sentences can be so closely connected that the 5th sentence will not be as closely connected to it. But that does not mean that it will be taken from another passage. If you are talking about machine learning, you got to talk about it. Even in that song development in birds question, that thing was part of that passage anyway. Because some form of auditory stimuli would make some birds sing more of that kind of song. But that is not directly related to the development of song in birds. And that is where the trick comes into picture. That is where, your logic comes into picture. Alright, so with this thought, I have another comment here. Here it is not saying learning from human-like biases rather than learning human-like biases. Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about a dash. Okay, and let's do one more question now. One more question we are going to do, and you have 60 seconds and your time starts now. Okay, let's do it. Yeah. Translators are like bumblebees. Okay. Seems like introduction or something, if at all I'm talking about translators are like bumblebees. So this is my theme here. Translators are like bumblebees. If my passage talks about translators, how translators are like bumblebees, then this is part of it. Otherwise, it is odd one out. Okay. Second, though long since scientifically disproved, this factoid is still routinely trotted out. Author says something has been invalidated but is still in circulation. Okay. Third, similar pronouncements about the impossibility of translation have dogged practitioners since Leonardo Bruni's published. Similar pronouncements about impossibility of translation. Similar to what? So you are saying somebody has talked about impossibility of translation and that it has dogged the practitioners, and similar pronouncement is here in Leonardo Bruni's book as well. Okay. Bees, unaware of these deliberations. What deliberations? Bees that are unaware of these things, these deliberations, your ideas. Bees are unaware of these ideas, na? That you are calling translator as bees. Bees को क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Bees probably don't even know that they are bees. Bees, unaware of these deliberations, have continued to filter from flower to flower, and translators continue to translate. Very interesting. Fifth, in 1934, so here you are saying that translators are doing what they are doing, and bees are doing what they are doing. Business as usual. In 1934, French entomologist Auguste Magnum pronounced the flight of bumblebee to be aerodynamically impossible. Okay. An entomologist has said that the flight of bumblebees is not aerodynamically possible. Is not aerodynamically possible. Okay, it is about flight of bumblebees. BBs. Huh? What two sentences are connected? Very, very easy. Very easy to spot it. Five and 3. In 1934, French entomologist pronounced something about bees. Similar pronouncement about impossibility of translation is done by somebody. So can I say here you are comparing bees and translations? There is somebody who said this is not true about bees. There is somebody who said this is not true about translation. 5 and 3 are connected. So can I say that this passage is actually about translators are like bumblebees? That the things which are not probably true regarding bumblebees, similarly translations also face the similar fate. Which sentence does not talk about the idea that translators are behaving like bumblebees? Second one, because you are not trying to spread a wrong information in this passage. This passage is not saying that there is a wrong information and people are still spreading it. People are simply saying that translators are behaving like bumblebees and hey, you should know that. But nowhere I am saying that some particular thing has been disproved and still it is in circulation. My answer is 2, ODD. This was slightly challenging because exact, I would say parallel, is difficult to establish between bees and translations. So you just have to do this thing that somebody spoke something about bees not being something and the other person similarly spoke something about translations not being those. That's all. This is what you were supposed to understand in this question. Somebody said why 5 and 2 are not connected. Dekho, 5 and 2 are not connected because you have no such word given in 5 and 2 which can show these to be undisputably connected. Mentally you can think of anything as connected. That's why I said if you want to find out the mandatory pairs, use transition words and noun pronouns. The words like similarly, just like, indeed, however, but yet, here, hence, therefore, or your he, she, it, things like that. So if similar pronouncements are being talked about, so somebody pronounced something, na yaar? And then you are talking about the similar pronouncement. So you have to restrict yourself to the discussion that is happening in 3 and 5. And that should be your answer. Is that clear now? Pragatishwaran? All right. So this is what I wanted to discuss today as far as our lecture is concerned. I hope you got some information today as to how to do various things. I hope you were able to practice alongside and you got some confidence in your ability to do something. I'm so happy that most of you who joined the session sustained through the entire set of 4 hours. Wonderfully well done. You should congratulate yourself, and please do not doubt on your ability to do VARC. Stick with us for the next 2 marathons for VARC, and of course the marathons for QA and DILR as well. And practice with us and see the magic happening. As a parting thought, I would give you 3 suggestions. Suggestion number 1, read every day and write down its summary. Get that summary checked with ChatGPT. Suggestion number 2, if you want to read a particular type of content, then maybe pick up 2-3 articles somewhere and put those articles in ChatGPT and ask it to generate some of the similar articles so that you can become better at it. And third, practice 2 to 4 RCs minimum every day using the 5 pause approach only. Master 5 pause approach. Your life should be about 5 pause approach. Whatever is being produced on various places on YouTube, please do not take that for now. Of course, this is also being said on YouTube, what I just said, but restrict yourself to only one thing, because most of you are from the IMS system anyway. You have understood 5 pause approach. Please don't muddle up your thinking right now. It is a wonderful thing, increases accuracy like anything. And one bonus tip, do not miss out on SimCats, which means your mock tests. Come what may, and analyze them before you take another mock. I wish you all the very best, and we'll see you for next marathon. See you soon.